In every shadow of our world, secrets still breathe, buried beneath sand and stone, hidden in temples, tombs, and ruins. There lie enigmas that defy reason and time itself. How did entire armies vanish without a trace? What knowledge sleeps within cryptic symbols carved by hands long turned to dust? And how were monuments built with precision that modern science still can't explain? These are not the stories written in textbooks. They are whispers from the past, daring us to question everything we think we know about history. These are the stories of lost cities, unexplained disappearances, and artifacts that might rewrite history itself. For 3 hours, we'll journey into the heart of the unknown, where truth and legend blur, and the line between history and mystery fades. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in to uncover what has eluded us for centuries. Deep within the Andean foothills of southern Peru, nestled between jagged mountains and hidden from the eyes of the casual traveler, lies a site that defies conventional understanding. It is called Sawit, an ancient Incan archaeological site, but more than just ruins. It is the resting place of an enigma that has baffled archaeologists, engineers, and historians for generations. The mysterious stone of the Incas. The site itself is relatively unassuming at first glance. Steep terraces, weathered stone walls, and what appears to be a labyrinth of channels carved meticulously into the earth. Yet, as one steps closer to the heart of Sawit, it becomes evident that this is no ordinary Inca site. Scattered throughout the ruins are hundreds of strange stone carvings, each one seemingly out of place. Among them, there lies the most perplexing of all, the Sawit stone, etched with an intricate network of channels and depressions, almost like a map or blueprint. But a blueprint for what? The stone is thought to have been part of a much larger system, a water distribution network. Indeed, Sawit's most prominent feature is its series of aqueducts, fountains, and channels, all channeled with an almost eerie precision. Water flows through these channels in ways that suggest a highly advanced knowledge of hydraulics, far beyond what one might expect from a civilization long associated with rudimentary engineering. How did the Incas, with no known written records, devise such a sophisticated system? Mainstream scholars believe that the stone's purpose was connected to agricultural irrigation. The Sawit site is, after all, located in a relatively arid region, where the supply of water would have been critical to the survival of crops. The stone carvings, they suggest, might represent a form of ritualistic water control, possibly linked to agricultural cycles or ceremonial purposes. The Incas' understanding of water management was indeed impressive, and it's possible that this stone was an early form of a complex system of water rituals, akin to the well-known Incan practice of worshipping water sources as sacred. But these explanations leave something unexplained. The carvings on the stone are far too intricate, their arrangement far too deliberate, for this to be a mere practical device. Scholars have also noted the unusual fact that the water channels appear to flow in ways that don't entirely make sense from an engineering perspective. Some of the channels spiral inward, others seemingly diverge at odd angles, and still others are designed to divert water in what appear to be arbitrary directions. Were these designs merely functional, or could there be something more at play? An unknown purpose behind the precise placement of every line and curve? As the years pass, increasingly strange and speculative theories begin to emerge. Some have suggested that the Sawit stone might have been a kind of ancient map, one that points not just to water sources, but to hidden or sacred locations in the region. The carved channels could represent a map of ley lines, the supposed invisible energy paths that some believe crisscross the earth, imparting a mysterious power to specific sites. Could the Inca have known of these forces, shaping their cities and temples not just in alignment with the stars, but with these hidden flows of energy? And then there are those who entertain an even more radical idea. Could the Sawit stone be a form of ancient technology, one that harnessed the power of water in ways that we, in the modern age, are only just beginning to understand? Some believe that the carving could be the key to unlocking lost knowledge of the Incas, an advanced system that goes far beyond simple irrigation, perhaps even suggesting the harnessing of water in energy-producing ways. For centuries, the true nature of the Sawit stone has slipped just beyond our grasp, like a riddle that remains unsolved despite our best efforts to crack it. As more excavation teams probe deeper into the site and examine the stone with modern technology, questions continue to arise. Could the stone's purpose have been purely practical? Or was it perhaps a tool for something far more profound, something that connects the people of the Andes not just to the land, but to a deeper, more hidden aspect of their world? It's a mystery that raises more questions than it answers. What does it mean that the Incas, known for their precise and often awe-inspiring architectural feats, chose to leave behind such a cryptic object? Was it a ritual, an artifact of scientific discovery, or something entirely different? And, perhaps most intriguingly, is the truth still out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered? As the wind whispers through the channels at Sawit, and the stone remains etched in time, one can't help but wonder, what else lies buried beneath the surface, waiting for the right question to be asked? The mysterious stone of the Incas is not merely a relic of the past. It is a key, one that may yet open a door to secrets we may not yet be ready to understand. As we move from the mysterious waters of Sawit, we now find ourselves in the lush jungles of Central America, where a different kind of enigma lies buried beneath the roots of towering trees and thick foliage. Here, in the heart of the ancient Maya world, lies one of the most elusive and misunderstood treasures of the pre-Columbian Americas, the Mayan codices. These delicate manuscripts, made from bark paper and deerskin, are among the few surviving relics of the Maya civilization's written language. Once, they held the key to the Maya's understanding of the cosmos, their intricate calendar systems, their gods, and their rituals. Today, only a handful of these codices remain, preserved in small, fragmented forms, leaving behind an incomplete record of a culture that flourished for centuries. But even these few surviving examples raise more questions than answers. One of the most famous codices is the Dresden Codex, housed in the German city of Dresden. It is the most well-preserved of the surviving Mayan manuscripts and is thought to date back to the 11th or 12th century. As you look at the intricate glyphs on the fragile pages, it's almost as if you are peering into the very soul of the Maya. The codex is filled with astronomical tables, deities, and divinatory symbols that describe a sophisticated knowledge of time and space, as well as rituals connected to the gods. These glyphs and symbols tell of a civilization deeply attuned to the heavens, tracking celestial events with remarkable precision. However, despite the immense effort put into deciphering these codices, much of their content remains a mystery. The Mayan script itself, with its complex system of logograms and syllabic signs, was not easily understood by the early scholars who first encountered it. For years, it was assumed that these glyphs were simply records of kings and rulers, but later studies revealed much deeper knowledge embedded within them, knowledge of the cosmos, astrology, and perhaps even prophecy. The question that lingers is, why was such vast knowledge contained in these cryptic books, and why was it so important to the Maya? Were the codices simply tools for priests and scribes, or did they hold a much larger, more profound purpose, one that has been lost to time? In the absence of many of these texts, we are left to ponder the significance of what remains. The Madrid Codex, another important manuscript, contains prophecies and detailed depictions of ceremonies that were believed to invoke divine power. It's believed that these texts were used to guide the Maya through the challenges they faced, not just in daily life, but in their interaction with the gods. The rituals and calendar systems described were essential to maintaining balance in their world. But if these codices were so essential, Why did so many of them disappear after the Spanish conquest? Were they destroyed deliberately, or did they simply fade into obscurity, carried away by the ravages of time? Some have suggested that the Mayan codices were destroyed to prevent the survival of indigenous knowledge, a deliberate effort to sever the Maya from their heritage in the wake of European colonization. But others speculate that the disappearance of many codices may be due to a loss of interest in their religious significance following the collapse of the Maya civilization. After all, the Maya civilization itself did not end with the arrival of the Spanish. It was already in decline centuries before the conquest, possibly due to climate change, warfare, or internal strife. Even more mysterious are the elements of the codices that remain undeciphered. Many of the glyphs remain resistant to modern understanding. Some have proposed that certain sections of the codices may encode knowledge so advanced, so esoteric, that it surpasses our current understanding. Could the Maya have been privy to ancient wisdom that was lost to the ages, preserved only in these fragile manuscripts? Is there a deeper meaning within these glyphs, one that hints at knowledge beyond the Maya's time and place? Some fringe theories suggest that the codices contain hidden messages or even teachings about extraterrestrial beings or advanced technology, ideas that align with the more speculative interpretations of ancient history. While there is little concrete evidence to support these theories, the sheer complexity and mystery of the codices leave room for such questions to linger in the shadows. Were the Maya, as some suggest, in possession of ancient knowledge passed down from civilizations far older than their own or even from otherworldly sources? As we continue to probe the mysteries of the Maya and their sacred texts, one thing becomes abundantly clear. We are only scratching the surface. What is certain is that the Mayan codices are more than just historical documents. They are a doorway to understanding a worldview that, though nearly lost, continues to echo across the centuries. But as with many mysteries of the ancient world, what lies beyond the door remains elusive, a question waiting for someone, someday, to answer. And so we are left to wonder, what knowledge, hidden in plain sight, remains buried within these cryptic manuscripts? And what can they still teach us about a civilization that understood the stars, the earth, and the cycles of life in ways that we have yet to fully comprehend? From the mysterious pages of the Mayan codices, we now descend into the shadowy depths beneath one of the world's most vibrant cities, the labyrinthine tunnels of the catacombs of Paris. Beneath the bustling streets, away from the crowds and the glitter of modern life, lies an underground world that has captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and thrill-seekers alike. The catacombs, stretching over 200 miles below Paris, began as ancient limestone quarries long before they became the eerie burial grounds we know today. In the late 18th century, the city's overflowing cemeteries, plagued by disease and unsanitary conditions, required a solution. The bones of millions of Parisians were relocated underground, stacked neatly along the walls of the quarries. Today, what remains are the eerie corridors lined with human bones, a chilling reminder of both the fragility and the permanence of life. But beyond this, the catacombs are shrouded in mystery, hidden treasures, secret chambers, and dark tales that still puzzle us. As you walk through the catacombs, the air is damp, heavy with history, and the walls seem to pulse with a long-forgotten resonance. The bones, arranged in macabre displays, are a striking visual of the dead, but they are not the only things that haunt this underground world. The catacombs, originally created for practical purposes, have since become a dark and enigmatic part of Parisian lore. One of the most persistent mysteries is the question of what lies beyond the areas open to the public. Officially, only a small section of the catacombs is accessible to visitors, a well-managed tourist site. Yet there are countless rumors of secret chambers, forgotten passages, and hidden artifacts that extend far beyond the well-trodden paths. What lies beyond the barricades placed by authorities? Could there be undiscovered catacombs containing not just bones, but hidden treasures, perhaps relics of the city's long and tumultuous past? Some speculators even suggest that the catacombs were used for secret meetings, occult rituals, or as a shelter for dissidents during the French Revolution. The catacombs are also home to a growing number of unexplained events. Over the years, reports have surfaced of explorers disappearing within the labyrinthine maze. The most famous of these is the tale of the cinematography footage found on a lost camera after an explorer vanished in 2004. The footage, though never confirmed to be authentic, shows the explorer's descent into the catacombs, his steps echoing eerily as he ventures further into unexplored sections. Toward the end of the film, a haunting whisper is heard, and the screen goes dark, with the man never to be seen again. Could the unexplained disappearances be the result of a natural danger, like collapsing tunnels, or the risk of getting lost? Or is there something more? A lingering energy? An ancient force that makes this underground world more than just a burial site? As we delve deeper into the history of the catacombs, a more unsettling possibility arises. Could they be hiding something far more significant? There are theories that suggest that the catacombs were not simply a place for storing bones, but also a repository for forbidden knowledge. Some suggest that the catacombs may house ancient texts, scrolls, or hidden treasures that were either lost during the Revolution or intentionally concealed for reasons we can only guess. Could the catacombs be the final resting place of royal artifacts, ancient manuscripts, or objects of immense cultural significance? After all, this subterranean world was originally a place of mystery and secrecy long before it became a burial site. Some scholars believe the catacombs may have been used by the early alchemists or occult practitioners, who sought to hide their arcane knowledge in the depths beneath Paris. This theory is further compounded by reports of strange symbols etched into the walls of some of the deeper chambers, symbols that do not appear to have any known association with the city's Roman or medieval past. Could they be relics of a much older tradition, one that was intentionally concealed, hidden from view to protect it from the hands of those who might misuse it? The idea that the catacombs are more than just a graveyard for the dead is a theory that continues to intrigue. Some have speculated that the tunnels might have been used for secret meetings or gatherings during the Revolution, or even during the rise of the Freemasons in the 18th century. Was this labyrinthine underworld a safe haven for conspirators, revolutionaries, and mystics? Could it have served as a staging ground for some of the darkest moments in Paris's history? The unsettling quiet of the catacombs adds to their mystery. What secrets could these ancient stones hold, waiting to be rediscovered? Perhaps the catacombs are not merely a tomb for the dead, but a repository of knowledge, a cache of treasures, or a place where the forces of history continue to haunt. As the years pass, and more explorers venture into the unknown recesses of the catacombs, we are left to wonder what remains hidden beneath Paris's cobbled streets. What treasures, relics, or secrets are still locked away, waiting for the moment to emerge from the shadows. The catacombs of Paris remain a place of intrigue and discovery, offering both a glimpse into the past and a reminder of the many mysteries still buried beneath the surface. From the dark corridors beneath Paris, we now ascend to the misty heights of the Peruvian Andes, where another historical enigma waits to be uncovered. The mystery of the Chachapoya, or Cloud People. High in the mountains, shrouded by dense clouds and almost inaccessible to the modern world, lies a civilization that flourished centuries ago, only to vanish into the mist of history, leaving behind a legacy as enigmatic as the very land they inhabited. The Chachapoya are often called the Cloud People because of their dwelling places, remote cliffside fortresses and elaborate burial tombs carved into the very mountains that stretch into the heavens. This ancient culture, which thrived between 800 and 1470 AD, is known for its exceptional architectural skills. Yet little is known about their origins, language, or why they disappeared so suddenly. What remains are their impressive stone structures, their mummified remains, and the unanswered questions that linger in the cool, damp air of their forgotten world. One of the most remarkable sites associated with the Chachapoya is the fortress of Culap, often referred to as the Machu Picchu of the North. Perched on a mountaintop over 3,000 meters above sea level, Culap is an imposing structure. Its high walls and circular towers seem almost as though they were designed by a people who understood the very nature of the land they inhabited. The sheer scale of the site suggests a highly organized society, yet it remains one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in South America. Culap's massive stone walls are adorned with intricate carvings, and the site's strategic location suggests that the Chachapoya were not only skilled builders, but also master tacticians able to defend their homeland against invaders. But who were these people and what happened to them? The mainstream explanation posits that the Chachapoya were eventually absorbed into the Inca Empire. By the mid-15th century, the mighty Incas began to conquer the highlands, including the region inhabited by the Chachapoya. Some scholars argue that the Chachapoya, lacking the military might of the Incas, were simply overwhelmed and integrated into the larger Inca society, their unique culture absorbed and forgotten over time. Yet, as with many historical mysteries, this theory leaves much unexplained. If the Chachapoya were so easily subdued, why did they leave behind such a strikingly advanced civilization? Why are their constructions, especially the terraced mountainside fortresses, so sophisticated? And why are their burial sites so elaborate? In many cases, the bodies of the Chachapoya were carefully mummified and placed in tombs high up on cliffs, some of which are nearly impossible to reach. Was this act of elevation symbolic, or was there a deeper cultural or spiritual meaning behind it? Did these tombs, perched like ancient sentinels above the landscape, hold more than the remains of the dead? Could they contain knowledge, hidden treasures, or sacred relics that were lost with the disappearance of the Chachapoya? As exploration of the region continues, more tantalizing clues have emerged that challenge the narrative of conquest and assimilation. In the 21st century, archaeologists have uncovered mummified remains in some of the most remote and inaccessible locations within the Chachapoya's territory. The bodies are often found in strange and unexpected places, sometimes tucked away in caves, other times entombed in rock formations that seem to have been specially chosen. Could these mummified individuals have been members of an elite class, or were they ritual sacrifices to appease gods whose power was feared even after death? More perplexing still are the stories passed down by local inhabitants. Generations of Peruvian villagers speak of the Chachapoya as a people who did not simply fade away, but disappeared in a mystery, possibly through a cataclysmic event or a mass exodus that took them far from their homeland. Could the Chachapoya have vanished so suddenly because of an environmental catastrophe, such as a plague or a devastating drought? Or was their disappearance the result of something more dramatic, like a rebellion against the Incas or another unknown force that led to their dissolution? Some fringe theories suggest that the Chachapoya's disappearance was not due to conquest or assimilation at all, but instead to their own voluntary withdrawal into the mountains, perhaps in response to an ancient prophecy, a spiritual awakening, or even an extraterrestrial encounter. While such ideas are not widely accepted in mainstream archaeology, they raise the tantalizing question of whether the Chachapoya's legacy is as elusive as the clouds themselves. In the mist-shrouded mountains of northern Peru, the Chachapoya left behind more than just stone structures and bones. They left behind a riddle that continues to confound modern researchers. The sophisticated ruins of Culap, the hidden mummies, and the mysterious customs of the Chachapoya all point to a people whose story has yet to be fully told. Perhaps they did vanish into the mountains, or perhaps they were absorbed into a greater culture. Yet, even so, something about their disappearance seems incomplete. Could the lost knowledge of the Chachapoya still lie buried in the mountains, waiting to be rediscovered? Or are they merely another forgotten civilization, their secrets carried away by time and the clouds that once enveloped their highland fortresses? The answers remain elusive, and as we continue to search, the mystery of the cloud people lingers just out of reach, waiting to reveal itself. From the mist-clad peaks of the Andes, we now turn our attention to an entirely different mystery, a mystery of armies, empires, and an ancient desert. Deep in the vast, desolate expanse of the Chinese Taklamakan Desert lies a question that has haunted historians for centuries. What happened to the 10th Roman Legion? The story of their disappearance is one of the most perplexing and enigmatic in the annals of history, and despite decades of research, the answers remain elusive. The Taklamakan Desert, with its towering dunes and scorching heat, is a place where few would ever expect to find traces of a Roman legion. Yet, in the early 20th century, historians stumbled upon an extraordinary discovery: ancient Roman coins and artifacts buried in the sand. These items, found along the ancient Silk Road, suggested that Roman soldiers had made their way into the heart of Central Asia, far from the borders of the Roman Empire. The possibility that the 10th Roman Legion, a famed unit of the Roman military, had ventured into this remote region raised more questions than it answered. The story begins in the year 53 BCE, when the Roman Empire, under the rule of Pompey the Great, was expanding its influence in the East. The Roman military was engaged in campaigns against the Parthian Empire, a formidable rival to Rome. At some point during this campaign, it is believed that the 10th Legion was sent eastward, possibly as part of a larger Roman expeditionary force. But from there, their trail goes cold. The standard historical narrative holds that the 10th Roman Legion eventually met its end in the distant reaches of the East, with no survivors to return home and report back to Rome. But what happened to them in that vast, empty desert? Why were Roman coins, armor fragments, and other artifacts later found hundreds of miles from the Roman frontier in the Taklamakan Desert? One of the most intriguing aspects of this mystery is the way the story of the Legion's disappearance seems to have slipped through the cracks of history. There are no ancient texts or Roman records that document the fate of the 10th Legion in the East, and this has left a large gap in our understanding of what might have happened. How could an entire Roman legion, known for its discipline and military prowess, simply vanish without a trace? Mainstream historians offer a number of possible explanations, the most common of which is that the 10th Legion may have been part of an ill-fated mission that led to their annihilation at the hands of local forces, perhaps the Chinese or the nomadic tribes of Central Asia. In fact, during this period, the Han Dynasty was expanding its influence in the region, and it is possible that a conflict between the Romans and the Chinese occurred in the deserts of Central Asia. Such a clash would have been a monumental event, but if it did happen, it appears to have left no clear record in the historical record. Other theories suggest that the 10th Roman Legion might have become isolated from their commanders and, over time, settled in the region. Some have speculated that the legionnaires could have integrated into the local population, adopting the culture and lifestyle of the Central Asian peoples. After all, the Silk Road was a bustling hub of trade and cultural exchange, and it is conceivable that a group of Romans, cut off from the empire, could have found a way to survive in this new and unfamiliar world. But how did they survive? And why did they never return to their homeland? Could they have been absorbed into the ancient civilizations of the East, their identity lost to time? Perhaps the most intriguing possibility, though, is that the disappearance of the 10th Legion was not a simple military defeat or a process of assimilation into local cultures, but rather something far stranger. Some fringe theories suggest that the Romans could have encountered something far beyond their understanding, something that led them to abandon their military mission and disappear into the desert, never to return. Were there unknown forces at play? Could the 10th Legion have found themselves caught in a web of ancient mysteries or long-forgotten knowledge, far removed from the power structures of Rome? The discovery of Roman artifacts in the Taklamakan Desert lends a certain weight to these theories. But the lack of direct evidence, such as written records or confirmed accounts of Roman soldiers in China, leaves much of the story to speculation. And if the Romans did find their way into Central Asia, what of their fate? Were they killed in battle, lost to the elements? Or were they, as some suggest, part of a larger, more enigmatic story that has yet to be fully understood? As archaeologists continue to search for answers in the shifting sands of the Taklamakan Desert, the mystery of the 10th Roman legion remains unsolved. What happened to this once proud legion? Did they die in battle, or did they blend into the ancient cultures of Central Asia? Could the answers be hidden in forgotten tombs, buried beneath layers of sand and time? The questions remain, tantalizingly out of reach, leaving us to wonder whether the true story of the 10th Roman legion has been lost to the ages, or if it is still waiting to be uncovered, deep in the desert sands. From the barren and shifting sands of the Taklamakan Desert, we now journey into the dense, unforgiving heart of the Amazon rainforest, a place where civilization, as we know it, seems to vanish beneath the heavy canopy of trees, and the boundaries between myth and history blur. In the depths of this jungle lies a mystery that has captivated historians for centuries: the disappearance of a Spanish expedition led by a conquistador named Francisco Orellana, which ventured deep into the Amazon in the early 16th century and never returned. The year was 1541 when Orellana, a member of the expedition led by Gonzalo Pizarro, set out to explore the wilds of South America in search of wealth, glory, and the legendary El Dorado. Orellana's mission was intended to explore the headwaters of the Amazon River and establish Spanish influence in the region. But what happened to his expedition remains a mystery to this day. What is known is that Orellana's journey began with an ambitious plan to follow Pizarro's route across the Andes and into the heart of the continent. However, after splitting from Pizarro's forces, Orellana's group made their way down the Napo River and into the vast Amazon basin. What followed was a trail of misfortune as the expedition encountered unpredictable weather, hostile indigenous tribes, and dangerous wildlife. Yet, as the months passed and Orellana's party continued to push further into the jungle, a darker question arose. Why did they never return? Orellana's expedition was the first recorded European venture along the entire length of the Amazon River, but it was also one of the last expeditions from the Spanish that year to leave a trace. What happened to the group remains one of the great mysteries of exploration. Though Orellana himself eventually emerged from the jungle, he was not the same man. Alone, starving, and carrying only the few remnants of his once proud expedition, he arrived at the settlements near the mouth of the river, having left no survivors behind. Mainstream explanations suggest that the expedition was simply overwhelmed by the inhospitable conditions of the Amazon. The terrain, with its dense forests, flooding rivers, and tropical diseases, would have been nearly impossible to navigate, even for a well-prepared Spanish force. Indigenous tribes, some of which may have seen the Spaniards as invaders, would have fiercely resisted their presence. The lack of food, combined with the physical toll of the journey, likely caused many of the men to succumb to illness, starvation, and possibly violent confrontations. The sheer isolation of the jungle meant that no help was available, and Orellana's party was doomed from the start. But this explanation, while plausible, does not account for the eerie absence of evidence that has followed Orellana's trail. No bodies, no detailed accounts, and no definitive records were left by those who accompanied him into the jungle. Could they all have perished without a trace, or was something more sinister at work? As speculation surrounding the expedition grew, fringe theories began to surface. Some have suggested that Orellana's expedition encountered more than just hostile tribes and difficult terrain. What if, they propose, the conquistadors discovered something far beyond their understanding? Something that led them to vanish into the jungle without leaving a single clue behind. Could they have stumbled upon an ancient civilization or an artifact of unimaginable power, something that would explain their disappearance in a place as enigmatic as the Amazon? Over the years, some explorers and researchers have claimed to have found evidence of strange structures hidden in the dense jungle, ruins that do not seem to belong to any known civilization. These discoveries, if true, would suggest that Orellana's men could have encountered a lost city, perhaps even the fabled El Dorado, and were either absorbed into its culture or met their end at the hands of its inhabitants. Could this explain why no trace of the expedition was ever found? Others have posited that the conquistadors may have suffered a breakdown in their leadership or morale, possibly abandoning their mission altogether and scattering into the survive on their own. In this scenario, they would have either perished from the harsh conditions or been lost to time, their stories and their fate slipping into legend. There is even a more unusual theory that suggests that Orellana and his men were victims of a supernatural force. The dense Amazon, with its dark and impenetrable wilderness, has long been associated with the unknown, its rivers and forests rich with folklore and strange occurrences. Could the conquistadors have encountered an unseen force, something unexplainable by the rational minds of the time that led to their disappearance? Did they walk into a place so remote and isolated from the known world that they were simply erased from history? As the years pass and the jungle slowly reclaims its secrets, the fate of Francisco Orellana's lost expedition remains unresolved. The few remnants that remain, an unfinished journey, a group of men swallowed by the wild unknown, raise more questions than they answer. And while Orellana himself emerged from the jungle to tell the tale of his survival, the fate of the others who were with him remains one of history's greatest mysteries. What could Orellana and his men have discovered in the Amazon, and what caused them to vanish without a trace? Could there be more hidden in the depths of the jungle, waiting for the right eyes to uncover it? Or was their disappearance simply the result of a journey too perilous for any man to survive? These questions, like the jungle itself, remain shrouded in mystery. As we continue our journey through the labyrinth of historical mysteries, we turn now to a tale that speaks of maps, forgotten cities, and untold routes, one that begins not with a discovery, but with something lost. The lost map of the Aztec Empire, a fragment of a world that no longer exists, offers tantalizing glimpses into the unknown, hinting at roots and cities of immense significance that remain hidden beneath centuries of dust and legend. In the heart of Mexico, buried beneath the green canopy of the jungles and plains, lies the legacy of one of the most advanced and mysterious civilizations in history, the Aztecs. Their empire, stretching from the arid deserts to the lush river valleys, was a complex tapestry of power, culture, and untold riches. Yet, for all their accomplishments, their empire vanished almost overnight at the hands of the Spanish conquistadors in the early 16th century. The remnants of this civilization are found in the ruins of Tenochtitlan, the capital city, and in the artifacts scattered across the region. But what of the roads, the cities, the secrets that have not been uncovered? What knowledge was lost when the Aztecs fell, and what may still lie hidden in the dark corners of the empire? This is where the story of the lost map begins. The map, believed to be a drawing made by Aztec scribes, purportedly charted the routes of the vast Aztec Empire, detailing not only the cities like Tenochtitlan, but also the more obscure settlements, trade routes, and sacred sites. It is said that this map was not just a geographical guide, but a sacred document, offering insight into the very workings of the empire and its intricate systems of governance, religion, and commerce. Yet, despite its importance, the map disappeared without a trace. Its whereabouts remain a mystery, even as scholars and archaeologists search for clues that might point to its existence. The map's legend began with early Spanish accounts of the Aztec Empire, which spoke of a grand document, an official cartographic record that detailed the reach of the Aztec civilization. Spanish explorers, upon their arrival in Mexico, were said to have encountered a version of this map, possibly in the royal court of Montezuma. However, after the fall of the Aztec Empire, the map vanished. Some historians believe it was taken by Spanish conquistadors as a prize, but if it ever existed, it has not surfaced in any known collections. What makes this lost map so intriguing is not just its possible location, but the implications of its contents. If it did exist, what could it reveal about the true extent of the Aztec Empire? We know that the Aztecs were masterful organizers, with an intricate system of roads that stretched across the empire. These roads, or causeways, were marvels of engineering, linking cities, towns, and ceremonial sites. The map would likely have shown these routes in great detail, offering insight into the connectivity of the empire, perhaps even pinpointing sacred sites or hidden cities, locations lost to time, where the Aztecs may have held ceremonies or stored wealth. The Aztecs also had a reputation for their extraordinary knowledge of astronomy and geography. Could this map have shown not just geographical locations, but the alignment of certain sites with celestial bodies, perhaps revealing ancient practices tied to the stars and the cosmos? The possible discovery of such knowledge would be revolutionary, suggesting that the Aztecs may have understood the land and the universe in ways that have yet to be fully comprehended. But while the mainstream theory posits that the map was lost during the Spanish conquest, alternative theories abound. Some suggest that the map was deliberately hidden by the Aztecs themselves, possibly by those who resisted the Spanish invasion and sought to preserve their knowledge for future generations. In this scenario, the map could still be out there, buried in the ruins of an Aztec city, or hidden in a sacred place, waiting to be rediscovered. Others have speculated that the map might not have been a traditional map at all, but rather a symbolic representation, an object imbued with spiritual significance, perhaps encoded in ways that modern scholars cannot yet understand. Could the map have been part of a larger ritual or ceremony, containing hidden meaning that goes beyond the geographical? In more speculative circles, some have suggested that the lost map of the Aztec Empire could be just a record of cities and trade routes, could be a key to understanding a deeper mystery. Could it point to the location of an unknown city, one that predates the Aztec Empire and holds the secrets of a civilization long forgotten? Or perhaps it is the key to understanding the collapse of the Aztecs themselves, offering clues as to why they fell so swiftly and what they may have known about their impending doom. As the years pass, the lost map remains just that, a tantalizing, enigmatic fragment of history. Every new discovery in the region adds to the puzzle, as more ruins are uncovered and new pieces of the Aztec world are revealed. But until the map itself is found, we are left with only whispers of its existence, fragments of stories passed down through generations, and the possibility that the key to understanding the full scope of the Aztec Empire is still hidden, waiting to be unlocked. What secrets does the lost map of the Aztec Empire hold? Could it reveal forgotten cities, routes, or sacred knowledge that has been lost to time? Or is it possible that the map was never meant to be found, deliberately concealed to protect the empire's deepest secrets from those who would seek to exploit them? The answers remain elusive, buried deep within the jungles and ruins of an empire long gone. But the mystery, like the empire itself, endures. From the dense jungles of South America, we now travel to the sun-baked deserts of Egypt, to a place steeped in history and legend, the Valley of the Kings, where the colossal statues of Memnon stand silently, guarding the secrets of an ancient past. These monumental figures, known as the Colossi of Memnon, have fascinated travelers and scholars for centuries, not only for their imposing size, but also for a mysterious phenomenon that has lingered around them since antiquity: their haunting voices. The Colossi, two towering statues of the pharaoh Amenhotep III, rise from the earth like silent sentinels, each standing over 18 meters tall, carved from massive blocks of sandstone. These figures once adorned the entrance to Amenhotep III's mortuary temple, which has since crumbled into ruins. But despite the devastation around them, the statues themselves have endured, holding an enigmatic presence that continues to draw attention to this day. Their eyes, eternally fixed toward the horizon, seem to peer into a world beyond time, as though they are guarding more than just the dead. But what has made the Colossi of Memnon truly famous is the phenomenon that occurred long after the temple and its inhabitants were lost to history. For centuries, visitors to the site reported hearing strange musical sounds emanating from the statues at dawn, especially when the morning sun touched the statues' stone faces. These noises, described as vocal, singing, or even sighing, became known as the voice of Memnon, and sparked the imaginations of ancient Greeks and Romans, who saw it as a divine or supernatural manifestation. The first known recorded account of the sounds came from the Greek historian Strabo, who described the phenomenon in the 1st century BCE. According to his account, the voice of the colossi was considered an omen or a sign, and some believed it to be the morning cry of the dead king, Amenhotep III. It is said that the sound, which echoed across the valley at dawn, carried a deep resonance that seemed to vibrate through the ground, filling the air with a strange, otherworldly melody. For centuries, the phenomenon puzzled those who visited the site, and various explanations were offered. In ancient times, some believed the sounds were a gift from the gods, a form of communication from the afterlife. To the Greeks and Romans, this was a divine voice, possibly that of the god Apollo, who was said to speak through the statues of Memnon in the form of music or prophecy. Others, including the ancient Egyptians, believed the sounds were tied to the soul of the pharaoh himself, echoing through the ages to remind the world of his eternal reign. But as time passed, the phenomenon became less frequent, and by the time of the early modern era, the voice of Memnon had largely ceased, leaving behind only a lingering mystery. Some speculated that earthquakes, which were known to shake the region, had caused structural shifts in the statues, thus silencing their once legendary voice. In fact, after a significant earthquake in 27 BCE, the sound reportedly stopped altogether, leading many to believe the resonance was a result of the vibrations caused by the shifting stone. But was this truly the cause, or is something more mysterious at play? Modern scholars have offered scientific explanations, suggesting that the sounds could have been a result of the temperature fluctuations between day and night, causing the stone to contract and expand. The sound, they argue, might have been the result of the air escaping from fissures within the sandstone, amplified by the massive size of the statues. Yet, even with these explanations, the precise nature of the phenomenon remains unclear, leaving room for speculation. Why, after centuries of silence, did the sound cease so abruptly? And why was it so uniquely tied to these statues, unlike any other monuments in the region? Some more speculative theories suggest that the voice of the colossi could be tied to something beyond simple physical processes. Could the phenomenon have been a form of ritual or a lost cultural tradition designed to communicate with the divine or the ancestors? Was the sound perhaps a deliberate part of the tomb's construction, a way to signify the eternal presence of the pharaoh? Or might it be a forgotten technology, something that the ancient Egyptians understood, but that has been lost to time? One of the most intriguing aspects of the mystery is the symbolism of the colossi themselves. In ancient Egypt, statues were not simply representations of the gods or kings. They were thought to embody the very essence of the individual they represented. The colossi of Memnon were not just monuments to Amenhotep III's power. They were meant to house his spirit, to give voice to his eternal reign. Could the voice that was heard from these statues be connected to some lost spiritual or cultural practice, a form of communication with the king's spirit or the gods? If so, what might this tell us about ancient Egyptian beliefs in the afterlife, and how did they connect the physical and spiritual worlds? The disappearance of the sound raises even more questions. Is it possible that the voice of the colossi still exists, but simply remains unheard due to the erosion of ancient knowledge and lost rituals? Or could it be that, with the passing of centuries, the land itself has grown silent, the resonance of the statues lost to the elements? Today, the colossi of Memnon stand silently as they have for millennia, their voices long faded into the past. Yet the mystery surrounding their once vocal presence lingers, calling out to those who are still willing to listen. Is it possible that the secrets of the ancient Egyptians tied to these statues are not entirely lost? What might we still learn from their silence, and what secrets are buried beneath the sands, waiting to be rediscovered? The colossi remain guardians of an enigma that stretches across time, reminding us that some mysteries, no matter how ancient, still echo in the shadows. As we leave the haunting silence of the colossi of Memnon, we turn our attention to a very different but equally perplexing mystery, one carved into the very stones of the American landscape. Hidden in the forests of the northeastern United States, in a quiet corner of Massachusetts, lies the enigmatic Dighton Rock. This large, weathered boulder, nestled beside the Taunton River, is adorned with a series of mysterious petroglyphs, symbols and images that have baffled archaeologists, historians, and explorers for centuries. The rock itself, which stands about 7 feet tall and 15 feet wide, is an imposing presence, one that has silently borne witness to the passage of time. Its surface is etched with a series of carvings, deeply inscribed and worn by centuries of weathering. These markings are not random scratches or natural formations. They are deliberate symbols, some geometric, some animal-like, and others resembling faces. The symbols are so intricate and so varied that they suggest an intentional message or record left behind by people who once stood before it, but who are now long gone. At first glance, the Dighton Rock might seem like a simple curiosity, a relic of the distant past, perhaps a forgotten landmark from some early indigenous people of the region. However, the mystery begins to unfold when we realize that these petroglyphs are unlike those found on other rocks in the area, and their origins are far more elusive than we might imagine. The carvings seem to defy easy categorization. Some of the images are familiar to those who study Native American rock art, but others are strange, almost foreign. How did these symbols end up on this solitary stone by the river? Who were the people who left them behind, and what did they intend to communicate? For centuries, the rock's markings have attracted attention from curious minds. Early European settlers, upon discovering the rock, immediately began speculating about its origins. In the 17th century, they believed the carvings might have been made by Native Americans, but as more researchers examined the petroglyphs, it became clear that these markings didn't fit with any known Native American writing systems or artistic traditions. The ambiguity surrounding the petroglyphs led some to suggest they were created by ancient, unknown travelers, or perhaps even explorers from other parts of the world, an idea that would lead to even more extraordinary theories. One of the most popular, yet highly controversial, theories is that the carvings were left by Norse explorers who reached the shores of North America long before Columbus set sail. In the late 19th century, some historians speculated that the symbols represented a Viking message or map left by Norsemen who had sailed along the northeastern coast of America. This theory was bolstered by the discovery of other Norse artifacts in the region, including rune stones and shipwrecks. Some researchers point to the carving's peculiar resemblance to Norse rune symbols as evidence that the rock could have been a marker left behind by these seafaring adventurers, but the idea remains contentious. Others have suggested that the Dighton Rock petroglyphs were created by early European explorers, possibly even Portuguese or Basque fishermen, who arrived in the Americas before the more well-known voyages of Columbus. Some claim the petroglyphs depict images of ships, celestial bodies, and even maps of the coastline, suggesting that the rock was used as a navigational aid or a marker by these early European visitors. The possibility of an ancient European presence in America long before the time of Columbus continues to stir debate, but definitive evidence remains elusive. Another possibility is that the carvings were made by indigenous peoples long before European contact, representing a form of communication or storytelling that has been lost to time. Some experts believe the petroglyphs could be linked to a now-forgotten tribe whose culture was wiped out or absorbed by later groups. The strange combination of symbols could suggest a mixing of cultural influences, pointing to a convergence of different groups in the region, each contributing their own unique elements to the rock's inscription. Despite these various theories, no one explanation has been universally accepted, and the mystery of the Dighton Rock persists. Modern archaeologists have examined the petroglyphs with advanced imaging technologies, hoping to uncover new insights, but the true meaning of the symbols remains as enigmatic as ever. Some even wonder if the carvings could represent something entirely different, perhaps a form of ancient knowledge or a code left by travelers whose identity has yet to be uncovered. The Dighton Rock, now preserved in a state park, continues to attract visitors and researchers eager to solve its riddle. But as each new theory emerges, new questions arise. Is it possible that the petroglyphs are a record of a long-lost civilization whose story has been obscured by time? Could the rock itself be a map, a sacred site, or an ancient marker of a forgotten trade route? Or is it simply an artifact of an unknown group whose purpose and legacy remain lost to the world? The carvings on Dighton Rock continue to evoke the same sense of wonder and mystery that they have for centuries. With each passing year, new discoveries are made, and new theories are proposed. But the true message behind these enigmatic symbols remains a question for the ages. Was it a message from ancient travelers? Or is the meaning of the petroglyphs forever hidden in the shadows of time? The answers may never come, but the mystery endures, as the rock stands in silence, guarding its secrets from those who seek to understand it. As we move forward in our exploration of ancient mysteries, we turn now to one of the most enigmatic and striking artifacts ever created by one of the ancient Mesoamerican civilizations, the jade masks of the Olmec. These exquisite and haunting objects, carved from some of the finest jade in the ancient world, have puzzled scholars and archaeologists for centuries. They evoke a sense of both reverence and mystery, with their intricate designs and their apparent connection to a long-lost culture that once thrived in the lush jungles of what is now southern Mexico. The Olmec civilization, often referred to as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, flourished between 1200 and 400 BCE. Though their written language and many of their practices remain shrouded in mystery, the Olmec left behind remarkable evidence of their artistic and technological achievements. Chief among these are the massive stone heads, some weighing several tons, which are scattered across the Olmec heartland. But it is the jade masks that continue to captivate those who seek to understand the Olmec's culture and beliefs. Made from the finest green jade, a material highly valued by the Olmec for its perceived spiritual power, these masks are remarkably detailed. Their smooth, polished surfaces are adorned with expressive facial features, some serene, others contorted in what could be interpreted as expressions of suffering or ecstasy. The masks vary in size, but most are small enough to fit over the face of a person, though they are often too finely crafted to have served any simple everyday function. Their exquisite craftsmanship suggests they held great ceremonial importance, perhaps as a form of ritual mask used in religious or funerary practices. The most famous of these masks was discovered in the Olmec site of La Venta, located in present-day Tabasco, Mexico. This particular mask, now housed in the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, is made from a single piece of jadeite, and its features are unusually detailed, even by the standards of Olmec artistry. The mask's expression is enigmatic, its mouth slightly curved, its eyes wide, seemingly gazing into some unknown distance. The contours of the face are perfectly symmetrical, and the jade itself seems to capture an ethereal glow as though it holds some unseen energy. For many, the mask serves as a symbol of the Olmec's advanced craftsmanship, but also of their spiritual and mystical world, one that we can barely glimpse, even with the most sophisticated modern tools. While the jade masks are beautifully crafted, their true purpose remains elusive. Mainstream explanations suggest that the masks may have been used in religious or ceremonial contexts, perhaps worn by priests or elites during important rituals. Some scholars believe they were meant to represent the gods, or to serve as vessels through which the wearer could connect with the divine. Given the Olmec's deep reverence for the supernatural, it is not hard to imagine these masks playing a role in connecting the physical world with the spiritual realms. Jade itself, prized for its rarity and green hue, was associated with life, fertility, and the supernatural, making it the ideal material for such sacred objects. But while this explanation fits with what we know about the Olmec's religious beliefs, it doesn't fully account for the mask's peculiar features. Some of the masks exhibit exaggerated, even unsettling facial expressions, like grimaces or intense stares, that suggest something beyond a simple ceremonial role. These expressions might represent the transformation of the wearer into a divine figure, or the embodiment of a supernatural force. But why such extreme expressions? Was the mask intended to capture the essence of a specific deity or spirit, or did it serve as a symbol of the transformative power of the ritual itself? Further complicating the mystery is the discovery of the masks in burial sites and caches, suggesting that they may have had a funerary purpose. Some archaeologists propose that the masks were created to honor the dead, serving as a kind of mask for the soul as it made its way into the afterlife. Could these masks have been placed on the deceased in the belief that they would guide their spirits into the next world? Was the exaggerated expression a means of warding off evil spirits or ensuring the safe passage of the soul? The fact that many of the masks have been found alongside jade, serpentine, and other precious offerings suggests that the Olmec believed these objects held the power to protect and elevate the spirit. Yet there is another theory, one that moves beyond the purely ceremonial or funerary purpose. Some fringe researchers have proposed that the jade masks could have served as a form of early medical or psychological tool, designed to facilitate some form of spiritual or mind-altering experience. Given the Olmec's sophisticated understanding of their environment, some believe that the masks might have been used to induce a state of altered consciousness during rituals, perhaps by creating an intense visual connection between the wearer and the spiritual world. This theory remains speculative, but it raises fascinating possibilities about the Olmec's understanding of the human mind and its relationship to the divine. Then there is the question of the mask's origins. How did the Olmec acquire such finely crafted jade, a material not native to the region? The jade used in these masks is believed to have come from distant regions, possibly from the Motagua River Valley in present-day Guatemala, an area known for its rich deposits of jadeite. This raises questions about the Olmec's long-distance trade networks, and what their interactions with other Mesoamerican cultures might have been like. Could the jade masks have been part of an exchange of knowledge and culture, transcending the boundaries of individual civilizations? Despite the many theories, the true meaning of the Olmec jade masks remains elusive. They stand as symbols of an ancient culture that left few written records behind, yet whose art and artifacts continue to captivate the imagination. Were they ceremonial instruments, sacred relics, or something more? As we examine their beauty and complexity, we are left to wonder what knowledge, what beliefs, what profound truths might still be hidden behind their silent, enigmatic gaze. After exploring the intricate artistry of the Olmec jade masks, we now shift our gaze to one of the most astonishing recent discoveries in the ancient world, the lost golden city of Thebes, an unexpected find that has redefined our understanding of ancient Egypt. In the heart of Egypt, amid the golden sands of Luxor, just a short distance from the Valley of the Kings, a hidden city, one that has long been lost to history, has emerged from the earth. Its discovery was not only unprecedented, but its significance reverberated across the world, offering up mysteries that, for centuries, had remained buried. The city, which was unearthed in 2020 by a team of archaeologists led by Dr. Zahi Hawass, has been dubbed the Golden City by those who first laid eyes on it. Although the discovery took place relatively recently, it has already captivated the imaginations of scholars and explorers alike. Located just outside Luxor, this city, once bustling with life, was abandoned over 3,000 years ago, during the reign of Amenhotep III, one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs. Remarkably well preserved, the site contains streets lined with buildings, walls still standing, and artifacts scattered across the city's labyrinthine layout. It was a discovery that wasn't supposed to happen, a city that was never meant to be found. The city's condition is extraordinary. It appears to have been frozen in time. The walls of the buildings are still intact, many of them revealing clear details of the daily life of its inhabitants. Pots, jewelry, and even intact tools have been uncovered, offering a rare glimpse into the world of the ancient Egyptians at the height of their empire. As the team dug deeper, they uncovered evidence of a thriving settlement, streets teeming with activity, homes, and workshops where craftsmen created some of Egypt's most prized possessions. Yet there is still much we do not know about the Golden City. Was it a capital? Was it a place of ceremonial importance? Or was it simply a thriving commercial center that fell out of favor as the empire shifted and changed over time? But what is perhaps most curious is that this discovery was not anticipated by archaeologists. Egyptologists and historians knew that the area surrounding Luxor was rich with ancient ruins, but no one had expected to find an entire city, one so well preserved, right beneath their feet. The existence of the Golden City had been lost to history, and many experts believed that any further settlements in the region had long been swallowed by time and erosion. Yet the city seems to have been sealed off, almost as though it were waiting to be found. The mystery deepens when we consider why this city remained hidden for so long. What made it so difficult to uncover, even though it lies in the heart of one of the most explored regions of Egypt? One of the most compelling aspects of the city's discovery is its timing. The excavation team, led by Dr. Hawass, had originally set out to uncover the tombs of two ancient officials. Instead, they stumbled upon the remains of a city that had not been seen for thousands of years. This unexpected discovery raises an intriguing question. Was it the work of the ancient Egyptians themselves that sealed the city from the world? Could they have intentionally buried it to hide it from future generations? Some theorists suggest that the city's sudden abandonment may be linked to the shifting power dynamics in Egypt during Amenhotep III's reign. Was the city deliberately hidden away, possibly in response to political or economic upheaval? Did the pharaoh's successors seek to erase the memory of this place? As the city was unearthed, one of the most fascinating aspects was the state of preservation. Many of the building's walls are covered with vivid depictions of everyday life, scenes of craftsmen at work, workers constructing temples, and images of lavish feasts. These painted scenes provide a wealth of information about the material culture of the time. Yet, there is also an unsettling sense that this city, despite its grandeur, is eerily frozen in time. Unlike other archaeological sites in Egypt, where the passage of time has worn down the structures and artifacts, the Golden City seems almost as though it had been waiting to be rediscovered. Why did the city remain hidden so long? In addition to the pottery, jewelry, and tools found within the city, the excavation team uncovered personal items, small amulets, scarabs, and even coins. These items speak not only to the lives of the common people who lived there, but to the cultural and spiritual practices that defined ancient Egyptian society. The presence of these items raises questions about the city's inhabitants. Were they all part of a grand imperial project? Or was it more of a community composed of artisans, laborers, and their families? However, despite the wealth of material evidence found at the site, there are still many unanswered questions. What exactly led to the city's abandonment? Was there a sudden event, such as a natural disaster or a shift in political power, that caused its fall? Could the city have been intentionally erased from memory by later pharaohs or conquerors, who sought to remove all traces of Amenhotep III's reign? The Golden City, though fascinating, is still a mystery. As excavation continues, archaeologists and Egyptologists work tirelessly to piece together the story of this remarkable find, but its true significance may take years to fully uncover. Why was this city left behind so remarkably intact? What secrets does it still hold, buried beneath its streets and walls? And, most tantalizing of all, could this unexpected discovery, unanticipated by even the most seasoned archaeologists, hold the key to understanding a hidden chapter of Egypt's long and enigmatic history? As we continue our exploration of history's greatest mysteries, we must ask ourselves, what other secrets lie waiting to be discovered just beneath the surface of time? And, like the lost golden city of Thebes, will they too be waiting to reveal their stories to those who are willing to search for them? The ancient world was home to many powerful and influential civilizations, yet few have left behind a legacy as enigmatic as the Etruscans. Long before the rise of Rome, the Etruscan civilization thrived in central Italy, leaving behind a rich cultural imprint that has continued to puzzle historians, archaeologists, and linguists for centuries. Their cities, their art, and their influence on early Roman society are well documented. Yet one question remains largely unanswered. What happened to the Etruscans? How did a civilization that once flourished seemingly vanish without a trace? The heart of the Etruscan civilization lay in what is now Tuscany, Umbria, and parts of Lazio. The Etruscans built cities that rivaled those of Greece and Rome, with their most famous cities being Veii, Tarquinia, and Cerveteri. These cities were sophisticated centers of culture, trade, and governance. The Etruscans created magnificent tombs adorned with vivid frescoes that depicted scenes from everyday life, religious rituals, and grand banquets. The artifacts they left behind, gilded jewelry, intricate pottery, and bronze statues, speak to a people of great artistic skill and wealth. Yet despite these achievements, the fate of their civilization is one of history's most perplexing mysteries. The Etruscans were not only skilled artisans, but also formidable warriors and traders, with an influence that spread across the Mediterranean. They engaged in trade with the Greeks, the Phoenicians, and even the Egyptians, and their political structure was highly advanced for its time. They had a complex religious system, a sophisticated writing system, and an impressive architectural style, which would later influence the Romans. Yet by the end of the 4th century BCE, their cities began to decline, and by the 1st century BCE, the Etruscan civilization was all but gone. But what caused this sudden and mysterious disappearance? One theory suggests that the Etruscan decline was the result of Roman expansion. As Rome grew in power, it began to absorb the neighboring Etruscan cities, incorporating their culture while gradually replacing their political and military dominance. Some historians argue that the Etruscans were simply absorbed into the Roman Empire, their language and customs fading into the broader Roman identity. This theory is supported by the fact that many aspects of Etruscan culture, such as their religious practices and architectural designs, were adopted by the Romans. Yet, while this may explain the cultural assimilation of the Etruscans, it does not account for their sudden disappearance as a distinct civilization. Other theories suggest that environmental factors played a role in the downfall of the Etruscan cities. Evidence suggests that the Etruscans were heavily reliant on agriculture, and it is possible that soil degradation, deforestation, or even a series of crop failures may have weakened their economy and forced them to abandon their cities. The region in which they lived was prone to floods, and some archaeologists have proposed that catastrophic flooding or other natural disasters could have devastated their cities, leading to a gradual decline in their population. But why did this happen so abruptly? Why did such a powerful and influential civilization vanish so quickly without leaving a clear record of its fall? Some scholars have even suggested that the Etruscans' disappearance could be linked to internal strife or political instability. While their society was structured and sophisticated, it may have also been vulnerable to the pressures of governance and leadership. Internal conflicts, whether political, social, or economic, could have weakened their cities from within. Yet there is little evidence to support this theory, and it remains speculative at best. Another more speculative theory suggests that the Etruscans may have disappeared due to a more mysterious cause, perhaps a cultural or religious transformation that led to their abandonment of their cities. Could the Etruscans have faced a mass exodus, perhaps driven by a crisis of faith or a radical shift in their belief system? Some have even wondered if the Etruscans may have left their cities in search of new lands, as part of a larger migration or diaspora. This theory is based on the idea that the Etruscans were not fully conquered by the Romans, but may have chosen to disappear from the historical record deliberately. Still, other fringe theories suggest that the Etruscans may have been the victims of a catastrophic event, perhaps a war, plague, or even an invasion from a foreign power that led to their disappearance. Some have even speculated that their end might be tied to extraterrestrial influences, a theory that, while highly speculative, continues to capture the imagination of those interested in the more mysterious aspects of ancient history. Despite the many theories, the disappearance of the Etruscans remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of ancient history. Archaeological evidence from their cities has provided a glimpse into their world, but it has not answered the most pressing question: why did the Etruscans vanish so suddenly? Was it a natural disaster, the result of Roman conquest, or an internal collapse? Or is there something more, a deeper mystery yet to be uncovered? The Etruscans were a people of extraordinary talent and influence, and their sudden disappearance from the historical record is a mystery that continues to intrigue and puzzle historians. As we sift through the remnants of their cities and examine their legacy, we are left with a haunting question: what happened to the Etruscans? What drove this once great civilization to the brink of extinction, leaving behind only fragments of their culture, their art, and their story? And could there be more to their disappearance than we can yet understand? As we continue to unravel the mysteries of the Etruscan civilization, we turn now to the shadows of the past, specifically to the tombs that these ancient people left behind. Scattered throughout the rolling hills of Tuscany, Umbria, and Lazio, the Etruscan tombs remain silent, yet their contents and designs whisper tales of a society whose secrets have remained locked away for centuries. These tombs, often hidden in the cliffs, provide a fascinating glimpse into the spiritual and cultural life of the Etruscans. Yet, despite their remarkable preservation and the wealth of artifacts they contain, the true meaning of these tombs, what they were meant to convey and what they still might be hiding, remains an enigma. The most famous of these tombs are found at sites such as Tarquinia, Cerveteri, and Valci, where grand burial chambers, many of which resemble small homes, have been unearthed. These tombs, with their striking frescoes and elaborate designs, suggest a people who placed great importance on the afterlife. The walls of these tombs are adorned with vibrant scenes, banquets, musicians, athletes, and other activities that seem to suggest that life after death was seen not as an end, but as a continuation of the experiences of the living. The vivid colors, the detailed depictions of the afterlife, and the elaborate architecture raise the question: what were the Etruscans trying to communicate with these burials? What messages were they hoping to convey, not only to the dead, but to the living? Inside many of these tombs, archaeologists have found grave goods, objects that were clearly intended for use in the afterlife. Pottery, jewelry, weapons, and tools have been uncovered, along with more mysterious items such as small statues, mirrors, and intricately carved sarcophagi. These items, which speak to the wealth and social status of the individuals buried within, also reflect the Etruscans' complex belief system. But there is something even more fascinating buried within these tombs, something that has yet to be fully understood. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Etruscan tombs is the symbolic significance of the frescoes that cover their walls. The scenes painted on these walls often depict not only everyday activities, but also gods, mythical creatures, and journeys to the afterlife. The Tomb of the Leopards in Tarquinia, for example, features a vivid depiction of a banquet scene, complete with reclining figures and musicians. This scene, while beautiful, raises an important question. Why depict such mundane activities in a place of death? Was this a reflection of a belief in an afterlife that mirrored life on earth? Or was it a deeper, more symbolic representation of the journey into the unknown? Other tombs contain images of mythological creatures and gods, including depictions of the underworld and the afterlife. The frescoes seem to suggest that the Etruscans saw death not as a finality, but as a transformative process, one that required not only the proper rituals but the right guidance through the darkness. Could these images, then, represent the Etruscans' belief in a spiritual guide or protector who would help lead the dead through the perilous journey to the afterlife? Some experts believe that the figures depicted in these tombs, often gods or semi-divine beings, might have served as spiritual intermediaries, bridging the gap between the living and the dead. Yet, as fascinating as the frescoes and grave goods are, they do not provide all the answers. One of the most enduring mysteries surrounding the Etruscan tombs is the question of their true purpose. Were these tombs merely burial sites, or were they meant to serve as portals to another realm? Some scholars argue that the elaborate designs and offerings found within these tombs suggest that they were intended as sanctuaries, places where the souls of the dead could dwell and continue to influence the world of the living. Others suggest that the tombs were not just final resting places, but centers of power, places where the dead could continue to play a role in the governance and protection of the living. Perhaps one of the most mysterious aspects of the Etruscan tombs is the fact that many of them remain hidden beneath the earth. Some have been left undisturbed for centuries, their secrets hidden from view. Why have so many of these tombs remained largely unexplored, their contents sealed away for so long? Could it be that the Etruscans themselves intended for these tombs to be hidden? Or is there something deeper, something we have yet to discover, that explains their secrecy? In some cases, tombs were deliberately sealed off, suggesting that the Etruscans believed in the importance of protecting the sanctity of the burial. But could there be another, more enigmatic reason for their concealment? Some researchers have speculated that the tombs may have been created with a hidden purpose in mind, perhaps as a means of preserving knowledge, secrets, or rituals that were meant to be kept from the wider world. If this is the case, what could those secrets be? Could the tombs contain clues to the Etruscan language, which remains largely undeciphered? Or could they hold the key to understanding their religious beliefs or the fate of their civilization? As we study the Etruscan tombs, we are faced with more questions than answers. The elaborate frescoes, the carefully curated grave goods, and the mysterious rituals surrounding the tombs all speak to a civilization deeply invested in the afterlife and in the preservation of its culture. But what remains hidden within these tombs? What knowledge, what symbols, what messages are still buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? The Etruscan tombs are not just relics of the past. They are windows into a world that, despite centuries of study, continues to hold its secrets tightly. The mystery remains unsolved, and as we uncover more of their treasures, we must ask ourselves, What truths lie buried within these ancient burial sites, waiting to be revealed? And what might we discover next as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the Etruscan world? As we delve into the annals of history, few figures loom as large as Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire, whose conquests spanned much of Asia and Europe, is often remembered for his unparalleled military genius and his ability to unite a vast and diverse range of peoples under his rule. Yet, despite the extensive records detailing his campaigns, his personal life remains shrouded in mystery. The most intriguing enigma, however, lies in the lost legacy he left behind, a legacy that may hold secrets far greater than his remarkable conquests. For Genghis Khan, one of history's most formidable conquerors, took with him to the grave a wealth of unknowns, the answers to which may still be buried beneath the earth. Genghis Khan, born as Temujin in the late 12th century, rose from the harshest of beginnings to become the ruler of the largest contiguous empire the world has ever known. His empire, stretching from the Pacific Ocean in the east to the Caspian Sea in the west, reshaped the world's political and cultural landscape. Yet, despite his incredible achievements, Genghis Khan's final years and his death remain clouded in mystery. While his empire flourished for many years after his passing in 1227, the secrets of his life, his burial, and the true extent of his personal legacy are still elusive. Genghis Khan died under uncertain circumstances in 1227, and his tomb has never been found. The most persistent mystery surrounding his death is the location of his final resting place. According to historical accounts, after his death, his body was transported back to Mongolia, where it was buried in a secret location. The burial site, however, was kept hidden, both to protect it from grave robbers and to preserve the sanctity of the ruler's soul. In a land with vast, untamed landscapes and a people dedicated to maintaining the reverence of their leader, the mystery surrounding the location of his tomb has sparked numerous theories, but no definitive answer. The lack of a definitive burial site only deepens the mystery. According to some accounts, the area surrounding Genghis Khan's tomb was completely erased, trees were planted, rivers were rerouted, and even the soldiers who buried him were killed to ensure that no one would ever discover the tomb's location. This level of secrecy, coupled with the absence of any physical evidence of the tomb itself, suggests that the Mongols held a profound belief in the sacredness of their leader's final resting place. Over the centuries, numerous expeditions have sought to locate Genghis Khan's tomb. In the early 20th century, Russian explorers attempted to trace his burial site, using a combination of historical documents and local folklore, but to no avail. More recently, in the 1990s, Chinese archaeologists, working in the region where Genghis Khan is believed to have died, conducted extensive surveys of the area, hoping to uncover some trace of his tomb. Yet, despite the technological advances in archaeology and the continued fascination with this elusive burial site, no definitive evidence has ever been found. This raises an intriguing question. What is it about the tomb of Genghis Khan that has remained hidden for so long? Why would such a powerful figure, whose empire spanned continents and whose name is synonymous with conquest, be buried in such secrecy? Some have suggested that his final resting place may hold not just his body, but something far more valuable: secrets of his reign, his strategies, or perhaps even knowledge that could reshape our understanding of his empire and his legacy. Could there be artifacts within the tomb that hold answers to questions we have long since forgotten? Could there be writings, scrolls, or treasures that shed light on his true ambitions, or perhaps even a lost chapter of Mongolian history? There are also those who speculate that Genghis Khan's tomb might hold something more mystical, an item or an artifact imbued with spiritual significance. Genghis Khan was not only a conqueror but also a deeply spiritual man, influenced by shamanistic beliefs and ancient Mongol traditions. Could his tomb contain objects tied to his personal belief system, rituals, or even predictions about the future? Is it possible that the tomb was constructed not only to protect the body of Genghis Khan, but also to preserve some greater cosmic or spiritual knowledge? One fringe theory suggests that Genghis Khan's tomb may be tied to a lost treasure, a hidden cache of gold, jewels, and other valuables that were collected during his campaigns. Some believe that his wealth, amassed from his conquests, was hidden away with him in his final resting place. Though there is little evidence to support this theory, the allure of a lost treasure buried for centuries continues to captivate imaginations, fueling countless myths and legends surrounding his burial. The mystery deepens further when we consider the larger implications of Genghis Khan's death and the fate of his empire. After his passing, his descendants carried on his legacy, expanding the empire even further. But what of the documents, knowledge, and symbols that Genghis Khan held dear? Some historians argue that his death may have signaled the beginning of a gradual transformation in the Mongol Empire, as his successors were often less capable than their legendary forebear. Could the tomb itself hold clues to why the Mongol Empire eventually fragmented into smaller states, many of which fell into obscurity? As we ponder these questions, it's clear that Genghis Khan's death and the disappearance of his tomb is far more than just a historical curiosity. It represents a deeper mystery, one that speaks to the elusive nature of power, the secrets hidden in the past, and the complexities of a civilization that continues to fascinate the world. Despite all the efforts made to uncover the secrets of Genghis Khan's final resting place, his tomb remains one of history's most elusive discoveries. What truths does it hold, buried deep beneath the earth? Is it simply a reflection of the power of one man? Or could it reveal more, something that would alter the way we understand the Mongol Empire and the man who created it? As the search for Genghis Khan's tomb continues, the questions remain. Perhaps one day the earth will give up its secrets. Until then, the mystery remains tantalizing and unresolved. Beneath the rolling hills and quiet fields of Europe, a shadowy network of tunnels stretches out, hidden from the eyes of most. These tunnels, known as the Erdstall tunnels, have intrigued archaeologists, historians, and explorers for centuries. They crisscross the landscapes of Germany, Austria, and parts of Central Europe, winding their way deep under the earth. To this day, many of their purposes and origins remain elusive. The Erdstall tunnels are an enigma, a reminder of a forgotten past, and an enduring mystery that refuses to yield its secrets. The first thing that strikes you about these tunnels is their peculiar construction. Unlike the expansive, grandiose catacombs found in other parts of Europe, the Erdstall tunnels are small, often no more than 3 to 4 feet high, and in places the passageways are so narrow that one must crawl to move through them. They are carved into solid rock or dug into the earth with a level of craftsmanship that suggests both intention and complexity. They are found in various regions, with the most notable concentrations in Germany and Austria, but the tunnels extend beyond those areas, with sightings in Hungary and other parts of Central Europe. What makes the Erdstall tunnels so mysterious isn't just their existence. It's their inexplicable purpose. The sheer difficulty of constructing these tunnels raises the question, why would anyone go through the effort of digging such narrow, uncomfortable passages deep underground? Why build a subterranean system that was, by all accounts, incredibly difficult to use? The usual explanations point to practical reasons. Perhaps they were used for storage, hiding from invaders, or even as places for secret rituals. But even these theories fall short of providing a definitive answer. Why do these tunnels appear in places where such a defensive structure seems unnecessary? Why were some of these tunnels so meticulously constructed, only to be abandoned? The first recorded mention of the Erdstall tunnels dates back to the 16th century, but their true age is a matter of ongoing debate. Some of the tunnels appear to date from medieval times, while others are believed to be much older, perhaps even predating the rise of the Roman Empire. This raises an intriguing possibility. Could the Erdstall tunnels be the remnants of a lost civilization? Were they created by a people who left behind no other trace of their existence? Some archaeologists suggest that these tunnels could date back as far as 4,000 years ago, to the time of the early Celtic tribes, though evidence for this is scarce. One of the most puzzling aspects of the Erdstall tunnels is their architecture. The tunnels are often divided into chambers, some of which have openings that lead to other parts of the underground network. These chambers, however, are not always easily accessible, and many are buried beneath layers of earth, making it impossible to study them in detail. What purpose could these chambers have served? Were they used as living spaces, or were they reserved for some kind of ritualistic or ceremonial purpose? Could these chambers have been places where important figures were buried, or were they used for something entirely different, perhaps a kind of underground meeting place for a secret society? Theories about the function of the Erdstall tunnels abound, but no one explanation has been universally accepted. Some believe they were used as defensive hiding places during times of war, offering protection from invaders. Others speculate that the tunnels may have been part of a much larger network of subterranean paths used for trade or communication. Some even suggest that the tunnels had a spiritual or religious purpose, with the narrow passages and hidden chambers representing a journey into the afterlife, or a connection to otherworldly forces. One of the more intriguing and more speculative theories suggests that the Erdstall tunnels could be linked to ancient pre-Christian religious practices. Some researchers point to the symbolism found in the walls of the tunnels, such as the presence of peculiar carvings and markings, as evidence of ritualistic use. These symbols are often found near the entrances or within the chambers themselves, raising the possibility that the tunnels were used for initiations, offerings, or other sacred rites. If this theory is correct, it would suggest that the tunnels were not merely utilitarian structures, but places of profound spiritual significance, perhaps connected to forgotten deities or forces that shaped the lives of the people who once inhabited the region. Despite these theories, however, no definitive evidence has emerged to explain the full scope of the Erdstall tunnel's purpose. Some of the most recent studies suggest that the tunnels were abandoned long before they were rediscovered, adding another layer of mystery to their origins. Could it be that the tunnels were sealed off intentionally, hiding something or someone of great importance? Or did their abandonment simply mark the end of a once necessary function, leaving them forgotten and buried beneath the soil? Perhaps the most tantalizing mystery surrounding the Erdstall tunnels is their connection to the landscape itself. Many of the tunnels are aligned with natural features, such as rivers, hills, and valleys, that appear to have been deliberately incorporated into their design. This raises the question, were the tunnels created to follow a specific geographical pattern, or did the builders have an understanding of the land that we have yet to uncover? Could the tunnels, in some way, have been designed to mirror or connect with the natural flow of energy or water? Some fringe theories propose that the tunnels were built as part of a larger, almost mystical, landscape design, a sacred network of underground pathways that corresponded to ancient beliefs about the earth and its spiritual significance. As we explore the mystery of the Erdstall tunnels, we are left with more questions than answers. Why were these tunnels built? What secrets do they hold, hidden beneath layers of earth and time? Could they be the remnants of an ancient civilization, or are they simply the forgotten structures of a past society? What hidden knowledge or rituals might lie within these walls, waiting to be rediscovered? The Erdstall tunnels remain one of Europe's most perplexing and unexplained mysteries. As we continue to search for answers, one thing is certain: the mystery of the tunnels is far from over. And until we can uncover more of their secrets, the tunnels will remain silent, their answers buried deep in the earth, waiting to be revealed. Beneath the sands of the Egyptian desert, a legend lingers, one of the most enduring and enigmatic military disappearances in ancient history. In 524 BCE, Cambyses II, the ambitious king of Persia, launched a military campaign that would forever be shrouded in mystery. His mission was clear: to conquer the Oracle of Amun at the Siwa Oasis, located deep in the western desert of Egypt. Yet, despite the monumental scale of this campaign, something happened during the march that has baffled historians for centuries. The entire army, tens of thousands of men, vanished without a trace, leaving behind no evidence, no survivors, just the silence of the desert. Cambyses II was no stranger to military conquests. As the son of Cyrus the Great, he had already expanded the Persian Empire by conquering Egypt in 525 BCE. His victory in Egypt was swift and decisive, solidifying Persia's power in the region. But it was his fateful journey into the Siwa Oasis that would cast a dark shadow over his legacy. According to the ancient historian Herodotus, Cambyses set out with an enormous army, some estimates suggest as many as 50,000 soldiers, toward the Siwa Oasis, where the sacred oracle of Amun was located. The journey was perilous, taking the army through the unforgiving and desolate Libyan desert. Herodotus recounts the army's tragic fate in his histories. After a long and exhausting trek, the Persian forces were said to have been swallowed by a catastrophic sandstorm. In one of the most dramatic moments of ancient history, the storm is said to have buried the entire army beneath the shifting sands. According to the account, not a single soldier survived, and the remains of the once great military force were never recovered. This extraordinary disappearance, an entire army swallowed by the desert, has remained one of the most puzzling events of ancient history. Yet despite the dramatic nature of this tale, Herodotus's account is far from the only source. Over the centuries, other ancient writers, including Plutarch and Diodorus, have mentioned the ill-fated campaign. However, none provide additional details beyond what Herodotus wrote, leaving us with only fragmentary accounts of what may have transpired. Historians and archaeologists have long debated the accuracy of these ancient stories, with some suggesting that the disappearance of the army could be a mere legend, a tale exaggerated over time. But there is something about the consistency of these accounts that makes the mystery all the more compelling. Modern research into the lost army of Cambyses II has been inconclusive. In the 19th and 20th centuries, explorers and archaeologists have scoured the Egyptian desert, hoping to uncover the remains of the lost army. They have focused primarily on the Siwa Oasis region, where the army was said to have marched toward its doom. Despite extensive excavations, no definitive evidence of the army's fate has ever been found. Some theorists believe that the soldiers might have been buried in a mass grave, while others suggest that the remains could have been scattered across the desert by the storm's fierce winds. As is often the case with historical mysteries, the lack of physical evidence only deepens the intrigue. What could have happened to this large army, and why is there no trace of them in the historical record? Some have suggested that the soldiers might have been absorbed into the desert itself, their remains lost to the shifting dunes, while others speculate that the event could have been exaggerated or distorted in the retelling over time. But the mystery of the lost army of Cambyses II remains one of the most enduring gaps in our understanding of ancient history. One theory, supported by some modern scholars, suggests that the army might not have been destroyed by the storm at all. Instead, some believe that the entire campaign may have been a failure from the start. Perhaps Cambyses II's forces were ambushed by hostile desert tribes, or perhaps the army succumbed to illness or a breakdown in supplies. In this scenario, the storm might have been a metaphorical embellishment, symbolizing the complete collapse of the campaign. However, this theory fails to explain the absence of any definitive archaeological evidence or the total lack of survivors, which remains one of the most puzzling aspects of the tale. Another speculative theory proposes that the lost army could have stumbled upon some kind of natural disaster other than a sandstorm that would have wiped them out. Some have suggested the possibility of a massive earthquake or a large-scale unforeseen catastrophe that occurred in the desert, Yet no clear evidence of such an event has ever been found, leaving the idea as little more than conjecture. The very nature of this disaster, be it a storm or something more sinister, makes it almost impossible to rule out any number of theories. Could it have been a moment of divine retribution, as some ancient sources imply, or a natural event of such magnitude that it left no trace? For all of these hypotheses, there is one in particular that has captured the imagination of many. Some scholars and amateur historians suggest that the army might not have vanished at all, but rather simply walked away from the desert. According to this theory, the soldiers could have deserted their posts, becoming lost or deliberately leaving Cambyses II's command. Perhaps the march into the desert was too daunting, or the supplies were too scarce, and the men simply gave up. Could it be that the lost army was simply the victim of a broken morale, and the story of the sandstorm was a convenient explanation for an army that failed to meet expectations? In the end, despite all the speculation and theories, the fate of Cambyses II's lost army remains one of history's greatest unresolved mysteries. Whether the soldiers were indeed lost to the desert, abandoned by their leaders, or victims of some other misfortune, we will likely never know. But the unanswered questions surrounding this disappearance remain a powerful reminder of how much of the past remains hidden beneath the surface. The sands of the desert may one day yield their secrets, but until then, the mystery of the lost army of Cambyses II will continue to haunt our imagination. Another theory, more speculative and perhaps even more intriguing, posits that the princes were not killed at all, but were secretly removed from the tower and hidden away. This idea suggests that, rather than being murdered by their uncle, Richard III orchestrated a daring kidnapping, arranging for the princes to live out their lives in secret, away from the public eye. Some suggest that they were hidden in exile, perhaps in a remote part of the country, and that their disappearance was part of a broader political scheme. Others have speculated that the princes were quietly smuggled out of England and lived in obscurity, their true identities concealed for their own protection. There are also those who believe the prince's disappearance could have been the result of a conspiracy involving other factions within the English court. Perhaps other members of the nobility, threatened by the prospect of the boys becoming kings, were involved in orchestrating their disappearance, an effort to neutralize a potential challenge to the throne. The fact that no one spoke openly of the boys after their disappearance has led some to wonder if other powerful figures were complicit in the silence. Even with centuries of scholarship devoted to solving the mystery of the princes in the tower, no conclusive answers have emerged. While Richard III remains the prime suspect, it is important to remember that many aspects of his reign, including his role in the disappearance, are still debated. And some modern scholars argue that Richard was the victim of a smear campaign orchestrated by his enemies, and that he may not have been responsible for the princes' deaths at all. Could there have been a conspiracy at play, one that has been obscured by time, political intrigue, and the shifting tides of history? As the centuries pass, the disappearance of the princes continues to fascinate and puzzle historians, archaeologists, and armchair detectives alike. Every theory seems to raise more questions than it answers, and every discovery leads to further speculation. The bones found in the tower in the 17th century have never been conclusively identified, and despite ongoing research, the final chapter of this dark tale remains unwritten. What truly happened to the princes in the tower? Did Richard III, driven by ambition and a ruthless desire to secure his throne, murder his young nephews? Or could there be a more complex explanation, one buried beneath layers of historical distortion and secrecy? The mystery of the prince's disappearance continues to haunt the halls of the Tower of London, an unsolved puzzle that invites us to question the past and wonder about the secrets it still keeps hidden. Amid the bustling streets of Delhi, a monument stands as a testament to an ancient past, silent, enigmatic, and seemingly impervious to the ravages of time. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, soaring over 7 meters high and weighing an astonishing 6.5 tons, rises from the heart of the Qutb complex, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This seemingly simple, yet remarkably well-preserved structure has puzzled scholars and engineers for centuries. But beyond its impressive physical presence lies a mystery that continues to captivate historians. The secret code embedded within the pillar, an inscription that has yet to be fully understood. At first glance, the iron pillar appears to be just a monument to the past, a piece of ancient architecture whose purpose remains elusive. The pillar is believed to have been erected in the 4th century CE by King Chandragupta II, part of the Gupta Empire. Its height and weight are impressive, but it is the material itself that has drawn particular attention. Made of high-quality wrought iron, the pillar has resisted corrosion for over 1,600 years, an incredible feat that defies modern understanding of metallurgy. But it is the inscription on the pillar, written in Sanskrit, that continues to be the most perplexing aspect. The text, although partially deciphered, remains an enigma. It is known to praise King Chandragupta II's valor and military achievements, but hidden within the lines of the inscription, there seems to be more than just a royal tribute. Some scholars believe that the inscription contains a form of ancient code, a set of hidden messages or numerical keys that may reveal secrets about the knowledge and technologies of the time. What makes this theory intriguing is the idea that the code, if fully understood, might provide us with insights into the lost knowledge of ancient India, perhaps even revealing advanced scientific or astronomical understanding. The mystery of the Iron Pillar's inscription first gained serious attention in the 19th century, when scholars began to analyze the text in depth. The inscription itself has been translated several times, with most translations confirming that it praises the Gupta king and records his military triumphs, but a few obscure lines have confounded experts for centuries. One theory suggests that these lines are not just historical, but rather represent a cryptic message, encoding a deeper meaning. Could it be a cipher hiding knowledge that was too dangerous to be made public at the time? One of the most intriguing aspects of the pillar is its resistance to corrosion. Modern metallurgists are still at a loss as to how the ancient builders achieved such a remarkable feat despite the passage of time and exposure to the elements. The pillar remains almost untouched by rust. Theories abound. Some speculate that the ancient Indians had developed an advanced form of metallurgy far ahead of its time, using a process that we have only recently begun to understand. Others believe that the pillar's exceptional durability is the result of a lost technique or secret formula that was known only to the ancients. Could this secret be hidden in the inscriptions themselves? One particularly fascinating aspect of the pillar is the possibility that it contains an encoded message related to astronomy. The Gupta Empire, under the rule of Chandragupta II, was known for its advancements in mathematics and astronomy. Ancient Indian texts from the period, such as the Surya Siddhanta, reveal a deep understanding of planetary movements, eclipses, and the cosmos. Some believe that the Iron Pillar's inscription may hold clues to an ancient astronomical calendar, or even a precise calculation of celestial events. The possibility that the pillar might contain a hidden map of the stars, or a key to unlocking ancient astrological secrets, has sparked the imagination of many historians and scientists. But the mystery does not end with the inscription. The pillar itself seems to defy the basic laws of physics and engineering known to us today. The exact methods used to transport and erect such a heavy object in the 4th century remain unclear. The sheer scale of the undertaking, the precision of the metalworking, and the mystery of the pillar's composition have all led to speculation that the ancient Indian metallurgists possessed knowledge or techniques that have since been lost. Could the pillar be a physical manifestation of an ancient secret? An object not just of historical significance, but of esoteric knowledge, lost to time? Some have gone even further, suggesting that the Iron Pillar may not have been intended as a monument at all, but as something far more significant, perhaps even a tool or device designed to unlock hidden knowledge or harness unknown forces. There are fringe theories that propose the pillar was once part of an ancient energy system, a conduit for mystical or astronomical powers. Could the pillar have served a function that we are unable to comprehend, a device far ahead of its time, whose purpose was concealed by those who created it? As is often the case with ancient artifacts, the line between fact and speculation becomes increasingly blurred the further we delve into the unknown. The Iron Pillar of Delhi remains one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. Its purpose, its inscription, and its technological achievements continue to confound modern scholars. What was the true meaning behind the inscription? Was it a hidden code, an encrypted message, or merely a poetic tribute to a king? How was such an advanced metalworking technique achieved? And could the pillar be part of an even greater forgotten system of knowledge? While historians and archaeologists continue to study the pillar, it remains clear that much of its true purpose, and the secrets it may contain, remain locked away, buried in the mists of time. The Iron Pillar stands as a silent sentinel to an ancient world whose knowledge we may never fully understand. The more we learn, the more questions arise. What exactly were the builders of the Iron Pillar trying to communicate? And what secrets still lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to search for answers? Nestled in the frozen expanse of Canada's northern territories lies a desolate region shrouded in mystery. The Njikuni village, once home to a thriving community of Inuit people, stands today as an eerie, empty reminder of a disappearance that has baffled investigators for decades. Located near the Arctic Circle, this remote settlement has become the site of one of the most inexplicable vanishings in modern history. It was in the early 1930s, when fur trader Joe LaBelle arrived in the area, that the first whispers of the village's vanishing began. LaBelle, accustomed to the often harsh and isolated conditions of the region, was unprepared for what he would find as he approached the village. Expecting to conduct trade with the locals, he instead encountered an unsettling silence. There were no people in sight, no sign of life, no children playing, no fires burning in the hearths, and no animals tethered to their posts. The village, which had once teemed with activity, was eerily deserted. LaBelle's first instinct was to search the area for the missing villagers, hoping they were merely away on some errand, or perhaps on a hunting expedition. But as he combed through the abandoned homes, his sense of dread deepened. Inside the houses were fully furnished, with food still sitting untouched on tables, and cooking fires still smoldering in the hearths. In fact, the abandonment appeared so sudden that it was as though the people had simply vanished without a trace, leaving everything behind, personal belongings, tools, and even the bodies of the dead. The most unnerving discovery, however, was a series of graves outside the village, which were found to have been opened and their contents disturbingly disturbed. The bodies of villagers, carefully buried in the past, were now missing, adding an eerie layer to an already perplexing scenario. The deeper LaBelle looked, the more it seemed as though the people had vanished into thin air. When he returned to the nearest town, LaBelle reported his findings to local authorities. At first, his claims were met with skepticism. After all, the idea that an entire village could disappear without a trace seemed preposterous. Yet, as more people came to investigate, the story began to spread, and a chilling realization set in. Something inexplicable had happened in Anjikuni. Over the years, various theories have been proposed to explain the disappearance of Anjikuni village. The most common explanation, especially in mainstream reports, is that the villagers had simply migrated. Perhaps the community decided to leave in search of a better life, or to find a new hunting ground, and in their haste, they left everything behind. This theory, however, seems to raise more questions than it answers. How could an entire village, seemingly healthy and thriving, pack up and disappear without any evidence of their departure. More bizarre still is the report of a missing group of people found years later, many miles from Anjikuni, in a state of severe malnutrition. This discovery led some to propose that the villagers had been subject to some kind of forced migration, or even worse, a mass abduction. Was there some external force, perhaps another unknown civilization, responsible for taking the villagers? One of the more speculative theories suggests that the village's sudden disappearance could be linked to a supernatural event. Inuit legends often speak of mysterious, otherworldly beings, and some local stories hint at strange occurrences in the area surrounding the village. Could the Anjikuni people have encountered something beyond the physical realm, something that led to their vanishing? Yet, there is another possibility that cannot be easily dismissed, that the disappearance is somehow connected to the ancient and largely unknown history of the region. The area around Anjikuni has long been a focal point for those investigating strange anomalies and ancient mysteries. Theories abound suggesting that the village may have once been a settlement with ties to civilizations far older than any recognized by modern archaeology. Could the disappearance of Anjikuni be tied to a forgotten chapter in history, a secret or hidden knowledge that was lost to time? Adding to the mystery is the absence of any conclusive evidence. No bodies, no physical traces, only the unsettling reports of the sudden and inexplicable abandonment of a thriving village. Could there be a simple yet deeply unsettling explanation, such as a natural disaster or disease outbreak that remains undiscovered due to the harsh environment in which the village was located? Or could the truth be far stranger, hidden beneath the surface of recorded history? The Anjikuni mystery raises a number of disturbing questions. What could cause a whole community to vanish without a trace, leaving no sign of struggle or explanation? Why were personal belongings, food, and even the dead left behind abandoned in a way that defies logic? As investigations into the disappearance continue to this day, no definitive answers have emerged. The events that took place in Anjikuni village remain one of the most intriguing and unnerving puzzles in Canadian history. What happened to the people of Anjikuni? Was it simply the result of an unfortunate chain of events? Or is there something more sinister at play? The village's silence is deafening, and its secrets remain locked in the frozen ground, hidden from the world, perhaps forever. As more theories come and go, one thing remains certain. The story of Anjikuni is far from over, and the mystery continues to haunt those who dare to seek the truth. In the vast, arid landscapes of the Middle East, where the horizon stretches endlessly into a blur of sand and sky, lies one of the most perplexing and enigmatic archaeological mysteries of our time, the desert kites. These ancient structures, scattered across the deserts of Jordan, Syria, and Saudi Arabia, are often invisible at ground level, their full only revealed when seen from above. From an aerial perspective, these kites appear as enormous, wide, V-shaped or Y-shaped formations etched into the barren earth, stretching hundreds of meters across the desert floor. Their purpose remains unclear, and though they have been the subject of fascination for decades, no definitive explanation has emerged to explain the origin and use of these massive, prehistoric constructions. With some kites dating back as far as 7,000 years, they predate written history and even the rise of the great empires of the ancient world. The sheer scale of the structures and their alignment with the natural features of the land suggest that they were carefully planned and executed by an advanced society. But for what purpose? The most widely accepted theory is that the desert kites were used in hunting. Some believe these massive stone formations were designed as traps for large game, such as gazelles or wild sheep, directing herds of animals into narrow corridors where they could be easily captured or killed. The arms of the kites would have funneled the animals towards the central area, which was likely a killing or enclosure site. But even this theory, while plausible, leaves many questions unanswered. Why go to the trouble of creating such colossal structures to catch animals? What other benefits did these kites provide, if any? Intriguingly, some of the kites appear to have been built with extraordinary precision. The alignment of the kites and their arms often follow the natural geography of the land, and in some cases they align with the cardinal directions. Could the builders have had an understanding of astronomy or geography that we have yet to fully comprehend? And why, despite the functionality implied by these designs, do they not appear to be used for permanent settlements or dwellings? What prompted a society to invest so much time and effort into such elaborate hunting structures, when simpler methods might have sufficed? Moreover, the sheer number and spread of these kites raise even more questions. They are not isolated structures. They are part of a widespread network that seems to cover vast stretches of desert. Could there have been a highly organized society or even a civilization dedicated to the creation and use of these kites? Or perhaps these kites were part of a nomadic way of life, with groups of people moving across the desert, utilizing these structures in different locations. While the hunting theory is the most commonly accepted explanation, other, more speculative theories have also emerged. Some researchers suggest that the desert kites could have served a religious or ceremonial purpose. The fact that many kites are aligned with the landscape in ways that are not immediately practical for hunting has led some to propose that they were used for ritualistic purposes, perhaps tied to religious beliefs or rites involving the worship of deities associated with the hunt or the land. Could these kites be symbolic representations of the cycle of life and death, the relationship between people and nature, or even the heavens? There are even more fringe theories that suggest the kites may have been used for something entirely different, astronomical observations. Some claim that the kites were designed to mark the positions of stars or constellations, functioning as a kind of ancient observatory or calendar. The alignment of the kites with celestial bodies would imply a sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, potentially far ahead of its time. Could these structures have been tools for tracking the seasons or even for marking significant celestial events, such as eclipses or solstices? If so, what other knowledge might the builders have had about the stars and the universe? Another intriguing possibility is that the kites were a form of ancient communication. The sheer scale and visibility of these formations make them perfect candidates for signaling, possibly used to convey messages or warnings over long distances. Could the kites have been part of a larger system of communication across the desert, facilitating the movement of people or information across vast, otherwise impassable regions? While mainstream archaeology tends to favor the hunting theory, the presence of unanswered questions about their true purpose, their creators, and their cultural significance suggests that the desert kites are far from fully understood. The fact that so little is known about the people who constructed them only deepens the mystery. Who were they? What did they believe in? What knowledge or traditions were they passing down through these massive, earthbound structures? And why did they abandon this practice, leaving the kites to slowly fade into obscurity? As scholars continue to study the desert kites, their true purpose may remain hidden beneath the sands of time, offering only fragments of clues about the lost people who once roamed this arid expanse. What was their ultimate purpose? And what secrets might still lie buried in the desert, waiting to be uncovered? On the night of October 10, 1809, in the wilderness of Tennessee, a body was found lying alone in a small cabin, just off the Natchez Trace. The man was Meriwether Lewis, one half of the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition, the man who had traversed the wild, unexplored expanse of North America, bringing back knowledge that would shape the future of the young United States. His death, however, would not be as clear-cut as his earlier achievements. It would become one of the most enduring and puzzling mysteries of American history. Lewis, the renowned explorer and governor of the Louisiana Territory, had been traveling to Washington, D.C. to report on the state of the territory and the progress of his exploration when his journey was tragically cut short. His body was discovered by a fellow traveler, a man named James Neely, who later described the scene as one of strange and eerie disarray. Lewis's body, still warm, was found with a gunshot wound to the head. The small cabin was poorly lit, and the circumstances surrounding his death raised more questions than answers. Initially, the coroner ruled the death as suicide, stating that Lewis had taken his own life in a fit of despair. This explanation, however, did little to quiet the suspicions of those who knew the explorer. Lewis had been struggling with personal and professional turmoil in the years leading up to his death. There were reports of his emotional distress, possibly linked to the political challenges he faced as governor, as well as a string of failed relationships and a sense of isolation. Could this have driven him to take such a drastic step? Perhaps. But many who knew him, friends, colleagues, and even biographers, have questioned whether this explanation truly matches the character of a man who had demonstrated such courage and determination in the past. The inconsistencies in the physical evidence only deepen the mystery. Accounts of Lewis's death note the strange placement of the gun and the positioning of his body. Some reports claim that Lewis was found with a gun nearby, but oddly, it was not the gun he was known to carry. Furthermore, the injuries to his body seemed disproportionate to the circumstances. It was not one but two gunshots that struck him, one to the head and another to his abdomen. The severity of these injuries raised the question, could one man in a moment of intense emotional distress have inflicted such a violent and precise attack upon himself? As the years passed, the theory of suicide grew less convincing, and the possibility of foul play began to gain traction. Some historians believe that Lewis was murdered, but who would have had the motive to kill him? Some have pointed to the political environment of the time. Lewis had been involved in disputes with members of the U.S. government, and his tenure as governor had been rocky. Could political enemies have silenced him, fearing that he knew too much or was becoming too influential? Others suggest a more personal motive. Lewis had made many enemies in his travels, and there are theories that someone in his personal circle could have been involved. The famous expedition had brought him into contact with a wide range of individuals, some of whom may not have been as supportive of his success as history has suggested. Could one of these people have had a reason to end his life prematurely? And if so, why leave the circumstances so ambiguous? Adding to the intrigue is the suspicion that the death may have been tied to a larger conspiracy. Some fringe theories posit that Lewis, on his journey east, may have discovered or uncovered secrets of national importance, secrets that he could not keep hidden or share. Was his death a way of silencing a man who had access to sensitive information? Could there have been a cover-up, orchestrated by higher powers to prevent him from revealing something that would have changed the course of history? Despite these theories, conclusive evidence to support any one of them remains elusive. No witnesses, no confessions, no documents have surfaced that can definitively explain the circumstances of Lewis' death. Even his own writings, which could have provided insight into his state of mind, are fragmented and inconclusive. What is certain, however, is that the mysterious death of Meriwether Lewis has inspired generations of historians, writers, and researchers to delve deeper into the man and his final moments. As we reflect on this mystery, we are left to wonder, what drove Meriwether Lewis to that small cabin on the Natchez Trace that fateful night? Was it a man's personal demons that led him to take his own life? Or did something more sinister unfold in the shadows of that wilderness cabin? The answers may never fully come to light. The mystery remains unsolved, leaving us to speculate on the secrets that Meriwether Lewis may have taken with him to the grave. Was his death the result of a tragic personal struggle, or was it the end of a much darker and more complex story, one that has been buried in time, lost to history? Hidden deep within the rolling hills of southwestern France, in the heart of the Dordogne region, lies a site of profound historical significance: the Caves of Lascaux. Discovered in 1940 by a group of young boys exploring the forest, these caves quickly became one of the most important archaeological finds in human history. But what lay within them, silent, untouched for tens of thousands of years, would spark not only awe, but also profound questions that remain unanswered to this day. The walls of these caves are adorned with thousands of vivid, intricate paintings that depict animals, wild oxen, horses, bison, and more, capturing a glimpse of the world as it appeared more than 17,000 years ago, during the Upper Paleolithic period. But beyond their beauty and historical significance, the art of Lascaux has raised questions far more profound than simply who created these paintings. The complexity and precision of the images, coupled with their placement within the dark recesses of the caves, suggest that the creators of these artworks possessed not only a keen artistic sensibility, but also an understanding of their environment and possibly something much more. Some believe the images go beyond mere depictions of animals and hunting scenes, proposing that they may be connected to something more mysterious. Could these paintings represent a form of communication with beings from beyond our world? Could the ancient artists of Lascaux have encountered extraterrestrial life? Or was there something more metaphysical at play, something far more ancient and perhaps beyond our current understanding? The mainstream explanation of the Lascaux paintings is that they were created by early humans, the ancestors of modern-day Homo sapiens, as part of their ritualistic practices. Most researchers agree that the paintings may have been associated with hunting magic or shamanistic rites, with the cave acting as a sacred space where early humans sought to ensure the success of their hunts by honoring the animals they depended on. The use of bold colors and dynamic compositions in the paintings might indicate a deeply spiritual connection to the natural world, an effort to transcend the mundane and reach a higher understanding of existence. But for some, these interpretations fail to fully explain the profound nature of the artwork. Why, for instance, are some of the animals depicted in ways that seem almost fantastical? The horses, for example, are not merely rendered as static forms but as dynamic, almost mystical creatures, their bodies composed of exaggerated proportions and fluid, energetic movements. In some panels, the animals appear to be caught in mid-motion, an artistic approach that was far ahead of its time. Could these depictions be symbolic, a form of ancient storytelling that transcends the limited scope of conventional artistic expression? Even more puzzling is the presence of certain abstract symbols and patterns within the cave. Some researchers have noted that certain shapes seem to be repeated across different parts of the caves. These symbols are not easily interpreted in the context of the animals, and their meanings remain elusive. Could they represent a form of written language, a code perhaps, that has been lost to history? Or could they be part of a ritualistic system that was more complex than we have yet imagined? There are even suggestions that some of the shapes bear a striking resemblance to modern depictions of UFOs and extraterrestrial life forms, curiously familiar shapes that resemble flying saucers, and figures that, to some, resemble alien beings. The possibility that the Lascaux paintings may be linked to an ancient alien encounter is not a new theory. Over the years, various authors, researchers, and fringe theorists have suggested that the creators of the caves may have had contact with extraterrestrial beings. Some of the abstract symbols and figures, particularly those that resemble flying objects or humanoid creatures, have been linked to depictions of UFOs and alien visitors. In this speculative theory, the early humans of Lascaux might not have been alone in their encounters with the natural world, but rather in the presence of something far more otherworldly. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence cited by proponents of this theory is the fact that the paintings at Lascaux appear to contain an understanding of motion and spatial relationships that was far more advanced than what we would expect from a Stone Age culture. Some researchers argue that the representations of the animals in motion may indicate knowledge of anatomy and biomechanics that was well ahead of its time. Could this knowledge have come from an external source, possibly from beings who had a far greater understanding of science and nature than the humans of that period? Despite the attention these theories have garnered, there is no definitive proof linking the paintings of Lascaux to extraterrestrial life. The mainstream archaeological community remains firm in its belief that the artwork was created by early humans, who, though primitive by modern standards, were capable of deep symbolic thought and artistic expression. The mysterious symbols, they argue, are simply the result of the natural human inclination to create meaning out of the unknown. And yet, the mystery persists. With the closure of the caves to the public in 1963, due to the damaging effects of human presence, the full extent of their significance remains elusive. What other hidden meanings could lie within these dark, forgotten chambers, waiting to be uncovered? Was there something more profound at play in Lascaux than we have yet realized? Or could we be looking at a glimpse into a deeper, more intricate history, one that transcends time, place, and possibly even humanity itself? As we peer into the shadows of these ancient caves, we are left with one fundamental question. What is the true purpose of the Lascaux paintings, and what secrets might they hold, hidden beneath the layers of time, still waiting to be revealed? In the annals of medieval European history, few figures have captured the imagination quite like the mysterious Black Knight. His legend, shrouded in obscurity and fragmented by time, weaves through the complex tapestry of the Middle Ages, appearing in various forms across different cultures. The Black Knight, an elusive and enigmatic figure, emerges as a symbol of both heroism and dread, a knight who is both noble and tragic, whose presence defies clear historical understanding. The stories surrounding the Black Knight vary, but there is a common thread. A mysterious warrior, often clad in dark armor, who appears at pivotal moments of history, only to vanish without a trace. He is seen as an outsider, a lone rider whose motivations and allegiances remain a matter of speculation. One of the earliest and most prominent mentions of the Black Knight appears in the Romance of the Rose, a French allegorical poem written in the 13th century. Here, the Black Knight is portrayed as a mysterious, enigmatic figure whose true identity is never revealed. This ambiguity surrounding his persona only deepens the allure of his legend. In the historical records, the Black Knight most famously materializes during the tumultuous period of the 100 Years' War. A shadowy warrior, clad entirely in black armor, is said to have ridden into battle against English forces, his motivations unclear but his resolve unwavering. His deeds were often spoken of in whispers, rumors of his impossible feats and near-supernatural abilities that seemed to defy the very nature of human combat. The Black Knight became a symbol of resistance, a figure who transcended the ordinary bounds of knighthood and became, in some respects, a ghostly avenger on the battlefield. Yet, despite the dramatic tales of his heroics, the Black Knight's identity remains a mystery. Was he a single individual, or did the title Black Knight come to represent a collection of unknown men who adopted the same moniker over the years? The lack of any concrete records, no names, no deeds, no direct associations, means that the man or men behind the legend are impossible to identify with certainty. Some scholars have suggested that the Black Knight could have been a disillusioned nobleman who rejected the chivalric codes of the time, becoming a mercenary or outlaw. Others propose that he could have been a knight-errant, a romanticized figure dedicated to some higher cause, moving through history without ever seeking glory or recognition. Perhaps the most captivating aspect of the Black Knight legend lies in his sudden and unexplained disappearances. Time and time again, this solitary figure would appear at critical moments, fight in fierce battles, and then vanish from the historical record as quickly as he had arrived. It's almost as if the Black Knight existed outside of time itself, an apparition who appeared in order to shape history but left no lasting footprint. Was he simply a figment of the medieval imagination, an archetype created in the minds of those who desperately needed heroes in times of war? Or did he truly exist, slipping through the cracks of history, his name and identity lost to time? One of the most enduring theories posits that the Black Knight may have been a figure of great personal mystery, perhaps even a man with a hidden past. The idea that the knight's identity was deliberately obscured by his own hand, whether to protect himself from his enemies or to create an aura of mystique around his actions, suggests that his very existence was one of defiance against the constraints of medieval society. In this sense, the Black Knight becomes more than just a warrior. He becomes a symbol of rebellion, an enigmatic figure who, even in death, refuses to be fully understood. Adding another layer of intrigue is the possibility that the Black Knight was not just a man, but a mythic archetype, representing the idealized knightly virtues of courage, mystery, and righteousness. He was a figure who existed in the collective consciousness of the medieval world, a manifestation of the hopes and fears of an entire society. In this context, the Black Knight could have been a collective projection of those who believed that the true knight was someone who stood apart from the common man, whose actions were guided by some hidden purpose or code. In more recent years, some have speculated that the legend of the Black Knight might have been influenced by earlier, darker traditions, the folklore of ancient warriors and gods, the ghosts of Celtic and Norse mythologies who wore dark armor and wielded swords of power. Could the Black Knight's legend be an echo of these older, pre-Christian stories, passed down through the centuries and transformed into something distinctly medieval? It's a compelling thought, one that suggests the Black Knight may have existed not only in the material world, but in the spiritual and mythical realms as well. The mystery of the Black Knight, however, remains as elusive as ever. His true identity, if it ever existed in any tangible form, may never be known. The question of who he was, and why he appeared when he did, may never be answered. Yet, his legacy endures, transcending the boundaries of history and folklore. Whether he was a man, a myth, or something in between, the Black Knight has left behind an indelible mark on the collective imagination. And as we peer into the shadows of his story, we are left to wonder, was he a hero, a ghost, or something far more complex? Hidden in the remote desert landscape of China's Qinghai province lies one of the most enigmatic and perplexing archaeological sites ever discovered, the Baigong Pipes. Over 200 strange metallic tubes are embedded into the mountainside near the remote village of Baigong, forming a mysterious network of pipes that have baffled researchers, explorers, and historians alike. The pipes, some of which are over 10 feet long, emerge from the rock itself, leading to an ancient lake below, creating an eerie scene that seems to defy any conventional explanation. The Baigong Pipes were first discovered in 2002, though local legends tell of the pipes being known to villagers for centuries. Their discovery in the early 2000s sparked immediate interest, both from the scientific community and from fringe theorists. Some of the pipes are embedded directly into the rock, while others appear to be lodged in the ground, some of them even emerging from natural stone formations. Many are rusted, but some show a level of craftsmanship that seems almost modern. Their function, their origin, and even their composition have sparked debates that range from rational scientific inquiry to wild and speculative theories. At first glance, the pipes may seem like they are part of a forgotten industrial system, buried in time. Conventional explanations suggest they could be remnants of a mining operation, or perhaps pipes used by an ancient civilization. But the site raises far more questions than it answers. The material of the pipes themselves is not immediately identifiable. Unlike other ancient metal artifacts, which are often made of copper, iron, or bronze, the pipes appear to be made of a metal that doesn't match the technological capacities of ancient civilizations. Some samples have even shown traces of what seems to be a form of stainless steel, a metal that was only developed in the 20th century. If these pipes are indeed ancient, it would suggest that a civilization existed here with knowledge of advanced metallurgy far ahead of its time. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that the pipes are positioned in a way that seems to suggest an intricate and purposeful design. They lead to the nearby Lake Tusu, where some pipes actually extend into the water. Could these pipes have once been part of a water system, perhaps used for irrigation or drainage? Or is there something more extraordinary at play, something that connects these pipes to a lost civilization, or even an entirely unknown period of human history. Some researchers have suggested that the Baigong pipes could be the remnants of a once thriving society that existed long before recorded history. The location of the pipes near a small village suggests that they may have served a functional purpose, but the lack of historical documentation leaves their true origin a mystery. Were these pipes part of a larger infrastructure, perhaps a sophisticated system of ancient engineering, whose secrets have been lost to time? In more fringe circles, however, the Baigong pipes have been linked to more extraordinary theories. Some proponents of ancient astronaut theories suggest that the pipes could be evidence of extraterrestrial visitation, proposing that the pipes were either built by visitors from another world or used by them. The fact that the pipes appear to be made of materials that were not known to ancient civilizations fuels such speculation, leading some to ask, could this site be a relic of an advanced alien technology, hidden away in the remote deserts of China for millennia? Of course, such claims remain speculative, without any solid evidence to support them. But the very mystery of the pipes, along with their unusual placement and the material they are made from, raises questions that cannot be easily dismissed. While some scientists argue that they could simply be part of a natural formation, or perhaps part of a man-made system related to mining or water distribution, others find it difficult to ignore the possibility that the pipes could be remnants of a far more sophisticated and possibly extraterrestrial origin. As with many of the world's greatest mysteries, the Baigong pipes continue to spark more questions than answers. What exactly are these pipes, and how did they come to be in this remote part of the world? Is there a hidden history waiting to be uncovered? Or are we looking at a curious anomaly that has yet to be fully understood by modern science? For now, the pipes remain a mystery, an ancient enigma that invites speculation and exploration, urging us to consider the boundaries of our knowledge and what may still be out there, waiting to be discovered. What secrets might the Baigong pipes hold? And could they represent a forgotten chapter of human, or perhaps extraterrestrial, history buried beneath the sands of time? The answers remain elusive as we continue to look toward the hills, hoping that one day, the true story of the pipes will be revealed. Nestled in the rolling hills of Bosnia, hidden deep within the lush landscape of the country's central region, lies a curious and controversial site, the Pyramids of Bosnia. The complex, located near the town of Visoko, is not a place marked by the grandeur and recognition of Egypt's famous pyramids, but rather by intrigue, skepticism, and fascination. The structures that rise from the earth, though not as monumental as their Egyptian counterparts, have sparked intense debates within the archaeological community and beyond. Are these the remains of an ancient civilization, or merely the result of natural formations and imagination? The largest of these structures, known as the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, towers above the surrounding landscape. At first glance, it might appear to be just a rugged, jagged hill with a seemingly symmetrical shape. However, upon closer examination, it becomes clear that this natural formation is anything but ordinary. The sides of the pyramid appear to be unnaturally smooth, and the top of the structure seems to have been shaped by human hands. Could this be a natural mountain that has been transformed over millennia by a forgotten culture? Or is it something more mysterious? Since their discovery in 2005 by Samir Osmanagic, a Bosnian-American businessman and amateur archaeologist, these so-called pyramids have attracted both passionate advocates and fierce detractors. Osmanagic, convinced that these structures were constructed by an ancient civilization thousands of years ago, has pushed for research and excavation, claiming that the area holds remarkable evidence of advanced engineering and technology. His theories propose that the pyramids are part of a much larger complex of ancient ruins, built by a highly sophisticated civilization far older than anything traditionally recognized by modern history. As excavations continue, a number of intriguing features have been uncovered: mysterious tunnels, stone blocks that seem to have been carefully placed, and even potential evidence of energy phenomena. Some researchers have claimed that the site is emitting unusual electromagnetic signals, potentially hinting at the presence of advanced technologies. Could this be evidence of a lost civilization with knowledge far beyond our own? Skeptics, however, are quick to point out the lack of concrete evidence to support these claims. Many scientists believe that the so-called pyramids are nothing more than natural hills and formations that have been exaggerated or misinterpreted. They argue that the features Osmanagic points to as evidence of human intervention could simply be the result of erosion, weathering, or other natural processes. The mystery of the Bosnian pyramids, they assert, lies not in ancient human engineering but in the way our minds search for patterns and meaning in the world around us. The debate has led to a curious division between proponents of the theory and the scientific community. Some argue that the pyramids were intentionally built for some unknown purpose, possibly as a place of worship or astronomical observatory, while others believe that they are part of a larger yet undiscovered network of ancient ruins stretching across the globe. The possibility of ancient civilizations with knowledge that far exceeds our current understanding is a tantalizing one, and yet it remains speculative, with only fragmentary evidence to support such grand theories. Among the many strange discoveries at the site are a network of tunnels, some of which are so intricate that they suggest a deliberate construction. The tunnels, which appear to have been carved into the rock itself, are lined with precisely placed stone blocks, and their geometry is strikingly uniform. The local belief is that these tunnels served as both a system of underground passageways and possibly a means of energy transmission or storage. Some even suggest that the pyramid itself could be a form of energy generator, channeling energy from the earth in ways that we still do not fully understand. The mysterious acoustics and electromagnetic anomalies reported at the site have only added fuel to the fire. Some claim that certain chambers resonate with a specific frequency, similar to those found in other ancient sites like the Great Pyramid of Giza. Could these frequencies have been used by the builders of the Bosnian pyramids for ritualistic purposes or even for harnessing energy? Others speculate that the pyramids could be connected to cosmic or astrological events, functioning as part of a much larger interrelated system that spans across the globe. Perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of the Bosnian pyramids is the fact that they remain largely unexplored. Despite the attention they have received in the media and academic circles, the site remains riddled with uncertainty and questions. What secrets lie beneath the earth in the tunnels that have yet to be uncovered? What are the true origins of these structures, and what role might they have played in the ancient world? For now, the Bosnian pyramids remain an unsolved mystery, a puzzle that continues to provoke both fascination and skepticism. The answers, it seems, are just beyond reach, perhaps hidden deep within the earth or lying dormant in the forgotten pages of history. What remains clear, however, is that this remote site has the potential to change our understanding of ancient civilizations. And as the years pass, the mystery of the pyramids of Bosnia endures, prompting us to wonder just how much of our past still lies buried, waiting to be rediscovered. Could these structures be part of a larger global network of ancient knowledge? And if so, what might that reveal about our ancestors and the advanced civilizations they may have built? Only time and further exploration can answer these questions. The Hypatian Revolt, a dark and largely overlooked chapter in Byzantine history, remains one of the most enigmatic events of the early 11th century. The Byzantine Empire, once a vast and powerful force, was by this time in decline. The once great imperial capital of Constantinople was struggling under a combination of internal strife and external threats. Yet, it is within this backdrop of political turbulence and weakening authority that the Hypatian Revolt occurred, a revolt that remains largely mysterious in its origins, motivations, and consequences. At the heart of this conflict was Hypatia, a name that echoes through the annals of history but is clouded by mystery. The revolt itself took place in 1047, centered around the northern regions of the empire, particularly the province of Kherson, located on the shores of the Black Sea. This region, once thriving under the influence of Byzantium, was by this time a hotbed of discontent. The local population, disillusioned by the empire's neglect and the heavy hand of imperial taxation, began to turn against the Byzantine rulers. Hypatia's role in the revolt, however, is not well understood. Sources differ on whether she was a figurehead or the actual leader of the revolt, and much of what we know is shrouded in ambiguity. Hypatia was not a typical leader of a peasant uprising. She was a woman, an intellectual, and a figure associated with philosophy and learning. Some historical records describe her as a member of the aristocracy, while others suggest that she was more of a symbolic figure, a representation of the discontent that had been festering among the common people. The Byzantine sources are particularly vague, leaving historians to wonder whether Hypatia was an active participant in the revolt, or whether her name was merely used to give the uprising a sense of legitimacy. In some accounts, she is portrayed as the driving force behind the rebellion, while others suggest she may have been a victim of political manipulation, her name used to rally the populace to arms. What we do know is that the revolt was sparked by a combination of factors, including local resentment towards the Byzantine government, which had long neglected the needs of the region. The political situation in Constantinople was volatile, with the empire facing a series of challenges, both from within and from without. The wealthy elite in the capital were increasingly disconnected from the struggles of the provinces, and as the empire's power waned, so too did its ability to maintain control over its farthest reaches. In Kherson, local leaders began to rally the population, and the revolt was born. Yet, the outcome of the Hypatian revolt remains shrouded in mystery. Byzantine sources tell us little about what happened to the rebels or their leader after the revolt was suppressed. Some reports suggest that Hypatia was executed, while others imply that she was captured and exiled, never to be heard from again. There is even speculation that she may have fled to the region of Kievan Rus, seeking refuge in the court of Prince Yaroslav the Wise. But, as with much of the history surrounding this revolt, the truth remains elusive. What was the ultimate fate of Hypatia? Why was this revolt so quickly erased from the official historical record? While the revolt was initially successful in its aims, it was eventually crushed by the Byzantine military. The local forces, though initially buoyed by the revolt's successes, were no match for the imperial armies that descended upon them. The region was recaptured, and the rebellion was extinguished. But, in the aftermath, the revolt's participants and their motives were seemingly forgotten, swallowed by the larger tides of Byzantine history. Some historians have speculated that the revolt may have been a precursor to the larger wave of revolts and uprisings that would sweep through the empire in the centuries to follow. Others have suggested that the Hypatian revolt was simply another manifestation of the growing discontent within the empire's provinces, a sign of the weakening central authority that would eventually lead to the empire's collapse. Perhaps the most tantalizing question surrounding the Hypatian revolt is the role of Hypatia herself. Was she a leader of men and women, a philosopher who sought to bring about change? Or was she merely a figurehead, used by others to further their own agendas? The lack of concrete evidence leaves room for speculation. Some even suggest that the revolt may have been an early manifestation of feminist ideals, an attempt by a woman to assert power and lead in a world that was largely dominated by men. As we examine the few surviving records and the fragmentary nature of the historical accounts, we are left to wonder, what truths remain hidden in the dust of time? What was the true significance of the Hypatian revolt, and how did it contribute to the larger arc of Byzantine history? What drove Hypatia, if she was indeed a central figure, to lead such an uprising in a world so dominated by powerful men? And what lessons might we glean from this forgotten episode in history, one that was perhaps too dangerous or too inconvenient for the rulers of the time to remember? The mystery of the Hypatian revolt remains unsolved, inviting us to look deeper into the shadows of history and ask what might still be concealed, waiting to be uncovered. Nestled between the rolling hills of central Italy, in a small corner of Tuscany, lies a piece of history that is almost as elusive as it is fascinating: the Republic of Caspia. It was a tiny, almost invisible state that existed for over 350 years, from the 16th century until 1826. And yet, despite its brevity, the story of Caspia is unlike any other in the history of Italy, or perhaps the world. The land of Caspia, a strip of fertile territory measuring no more than a few square miles, was oddly situated between the Papal States and the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. Its existence was a fluke, born of territorial disputes, cartographical confusion, and an unusual quirk of diplomacy. The origins of Caspia go back to the year 1509, when a map drawn up by a cardinal led to a mysterious oversight. The small strip of land, which was located along the border of the Papal States, was inadvertently left out of the jurisdiction of either state. No one, it seemed, was aware of it at first, and so, this obscure territory, caught between two powerful neighbors, became an independent entity by accident. The independence of Caspia was not officially recognized, yet it persisted, largely unnoticed by the outside world, for more than 3 centuries. The people of Caspia, at least at first, appeared to be aware of their precarious situation. Despite the lack of any formal recognition, they enjoyed a certain degree of freedom, and soon their small community developed its own customs and ways of life. The land was mainly devoted to farming, and in the early days the population was modest, living off the fertile soil and the obscure independence that their odd situation had given them. But what truly sets the story of Caspia apart is what happened next. The quiet, yet remarkable way in which the Republic was able to thrive during its time in existence. Caspia's unusual situation had one significant side effect. It became a haven for smugglers. The region's unclaimed status created the perfect environment for illicit activity, with the people of Caspia involved in trafficking goods between the Papal States and Tuscany. But rather than this smuggling leading to conflict, Caspia's rulers appeared to be remarkably tolerant of such activities. In fact, it is said that they even turned a blind eye, allowing smuggling to continue as a form of income for the region. By the late 17th century, Caspia was known across Europe as a center for the illicit trade of goods, such as tobacco and salt. But its fame did not end there. The tobacco trade was especially lucrative, and, in a twist of irony, it is said that Caspia became the only place in Italy where tobacco could be freely grown and sold without restrictions. This trade, in particular, flourished, and the small, unacknowledged republic became a unique center of commerce, driven by its strategic position and its ability to exist outside the constraints of both papal and Tuscan law. Yet, the more successful the community became, the more the rest of Italy turned a wary eye toward Caspia. How could a small strip of land, entirely ungoverned and largely unnoticed, thrive so? The mystery of Caspia's success lies, in part, in its ability to fly under the radar. Despite its significant role in the black market and smuggling industries, it faced little external interference for centuries. Its location allowed it to thrive while remaining outside the legal structures that governed neighboring states. But what drove the people of Caspia? Was it sheer opportunity that made them a hidden power in Italy? Or was there something more at play? Some theories suggest that there may have been alliances or secret agreements made between Caspia and other powers, keeping it safe from external influence. Others speculate that the people of Caspia, operating in secrecy, developed a system of communication that allowed them to evade the authorities. By the time the 19th century arrived, however, the Republic's quiet existence was increasingly at risk. The Kingdom of Italy, which was beginning to emerge as a unified state, had no tolerance for the obscure and hidden regions that lay within its borders. In 1826, after much debate, Caspia was absorbed into the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, bringing its centuries of independence to an end. And just as mysteriously as it had begun, Caspia faded into history. But what exactly did Caspia represent? Was it merely an accidental enclave left out of maps and boundaries? Or was it a deliberate refuge for those who saw the potential in living outside the established order? Perhaps Caspia was not so much an anomaly as it was a symbol of how borders, whether physical or ideological, can be fluid and undefined. What might have been the political implications of such a republic that thrived through secrecy and its very invisibility? In many ways, Caspia raises more questions than it answers. Why did this tiny republic not attract more attention, either from local authorities or from outside forces? Was its success a result of strategic location, or did it owe more to its ability to remain undetected by the greater powers around it? Did the people of Caspia truly embrace their freedom, or were they merely caught up in the circumstances that shaped their existence? What secrets might still lie hidden in the records, in forgotten corners of history, waiting to be rediscovered? In the end, the Republic of Caspia reminds us that the past is full of unexplained and curious chapters, and that history is often written not just by those who conquer, but by those who quietly slip through the cracks. Thank you so much for watching. See y'all in the next video. If you like my channel, like and subscribe.